everybody. Happy Sunday. Hope you all are doing well. It
Hi!
seems like there's a lot of people on already. We're super excited to
And
see
it
you all.
seems to me that you lived your life like a candle in the wind.
So, just want to, I know there's been a lot going on, especially on our end, over the past week. I just want to preface this before we jump in at all. We always avoid talking about politics on this channel, but more than ever before, let's definitely avoid all of that today. No political opinions, no talk about the events and stuff like that. So, but we can talk about is the fact that Derek and I are now in Scotland, and we have left England before the lockdown occurred, and we are now in Fort William, Scotland. So we have a video coming out that kind of shares a lot more of our thought process behind that, but it's not quite ready yet, so it'll probably go out tomorrow. But for those of you who maybe aren't following us on Instagram or something like that, we wanted to fill you all in on that's where we landed.
And that is why I will be drinking Old Jack Scotland something. Strong and bold Old Jack Scotch Ale. 6.7% alcohol.
Yeah. And I am drinking
Gewürztraminer.
Yeah, white wine, but there's
From
no
Alsace.
wine glasses in this Airbnb. There's just like champagne flutes. So it looks like I'm drinking champagne, but it's just white wine. So hopefully you guys have all had, good weeks overall. And we're really looking forward to catching up with you guys. It's getting dark as we speak behind us, but we wanted to sit in front of the window for you all today, knowing that there's clearly reflections. You can see us. But
Ooh, and there's a light right there.
Yeah, if I move my head, I think there's a light. So maybe we'll close the curtains after it gets dark, but we wanted to show you guys a little bit of our view behind us too.
Yeah, we do have a lovely view here. We can actually see the loch, which is quite nice.
Yeah.
And, yeah.
All right, so let's say hi to everybody. Okay, so hi, Mary Ellen. Thank you for being the first one on today and saying hello before we even got started. You're the best. I know you're always so punctual, and we really, really love having you on each week. And I already said hi to you, too, in the chat. Julia, hello, welcome. She says hi from Tucson, Arizona, and then Purdue says good morning. So to all of you guys from here, good afternoon, good almost sunset in 9 hours of daylight Scotland. Ronnie Dove, what is up, everyone? What is up for
Ronnie?
You? And Purdue says Julie Pounded. Thank you guys so much if you've already pressed that like button.
Mo says he destroyed the like button. Thank you, sir.
And if you're Mo, thank you for destroying it. We always appreciate a thumbs up on these videos. It tells YouTube that this is a fun place to hang out. So we really, really appreciate anybody who's liked it. And if you haven't, give it a thumbs up. And then who else? Thomas Reiser.
Thomas,
hey, how's it going?
hey, how are you?
Hopefully you're doing well. And Klaus says hello to everybody. Hi, hey, Klaus, welcome. And Julie Good says good morning.
Julie, hi.
Good morning, Julie. So if anybody else is on that we've missed, looks like Roger Sexton just joined too. He said, I decided from the picture you posted on Friday that you had not gone home, but had gone to the Highlands of Scotland with Glenfinnan Viaduct in the background. I thought Fort William, and you were 1,000% correct.
Truth.
So what's really cool is that we actually, because we went to Scotland earlier than we were planning, we got to go to the Glenfinnan Viaduct and see the very last Jacobite steam train go across the viaduct of 2020.
Yep.
So that was pretty cool because we would have missed it if we had waited until
one more day. Yeah, one more day.
Yeah. So, and welcome to Bonnie, Vagabonnie. Good
What's
day.
Up, Bonnie?
It looks like it might be snowing in Canada with that emoji. And Iggy, welcome.
Hello.
Have you had haggis yet?
Not yet, but we've been offered it.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about that. That's fun. That's a great question. Okay, the very first meal that we went to in Scotland, so our journey was that we crossed over the border and we went to the Clan Armstrong Museum about 10 minutes before it closed, and they did not let us in.
Instead, we went around the outside and took some pictures.
There was a reason why we were so late, which we'll get into as well. But yeah, so my maiden name is Armstrong, and we are kind of like a border clan in Scotland, and so we went straight there from the Lake District, and did not get to see the museum part of it, which was such a bummer. I'm sure you guys have all had that kind of bad travel luck as well. Oh, that's nice. That's nice lighting.
Better.
Your head's gonna block the ring light a little bit, maybe, but maybe we'll start closing these windows if it starts to get a little too reflective. Anyway, so we went to the Clan Armstrong Museum, and yeah, took some pictures outside of it. It's a very beautiful area.
It's a Peel Tower,
and then we went
Pell
to
Tower, P-E-L-E. It's nice.
Then we went to our guest house, I guess.
Guest house up in Moffat, Scotland.
Yeah.
Not a lot of options up there to eat. We ended up going to a place called the Black Bull Inn, though, which was really nice. There's a lot of like barbecue and stuff like that.
We tried to get into some other places, and they were completely booked.
Yep.
So that was promising for the town. But yeah, so we went to a place called the Black Bull, and all of their specials
were haggis
based. So
the starter was haggis fritters. The main was a chicken stuffed with haggis wrapped in bacon, and I was like, that sounds yummy, actually. But yeah, we ended up not doing haggis yet. We want to go to a place that's like, when we do haggis, we want to go to a place that's like known for its haggis, and then like do a video on it for you guys so you can see us respond to eating haggis.
So we both have had it before. We've been to Scotland, both of us, before a couple times, together and separately, and so we know that there's certain scenarios where we like it. We just wouldn't eat it every day, probably. Although Scottish people, like, we have seen Scottish people go up and like legitimately order haggis for lunch. You know, like, this is not a let's trick the tourists sort of food. Like, this is their actual cuisine that they do eat, and it's very authentic. So yeah, like we were saying, specials were all haggis based, and it's funny because we didn't order anything, and the only other people that were in the restaurant with us were all vegetarians, so they didn't order anything, any haggis either. So the haggis specials, I think, were saved for another day.
Yeah. So we will be doing haggis, though. I have had some black pudding since we got here, so that was yummy.
We even Derek saw when we went to Morrison's grocery store yesterday, he saw haggis as part of like a Scottish breakfast that you could buy.
Well, no, I don't think so.
Oh, I thought you said
no. It had like black pudding, it had fruit pudding, it had a bunch of different stuff in it.
Oh, I thought it included haggis. Sorry.
I don't think so. Maybe, I don't know. We'll have to go check it out, though. It's like,
to be continued.
It's basically minus the eggs. It's all the things you'd need to do kind of like a full Scotch breakfast, I think. So I kind of want to go back, get that, make it for us, and maybe we'd film like a video of us having like the Scotch breakfast. Because we can like talk about it and give our honest opinions a little bit better if we do it here as opposed to like at a restaurant, because I'm not going to be that
or at a bed
a-hole.
breakfast.
Like, yeah, I'm not going to be like an a-hole, like talking loudly so that the phone or whatever can hear me say how, oh, this is disgusting, you know, but for you guys here, I would do that. So.
We'll see if we end up doing it, but hopefully it won't be disgusting. I don't think we'd ever describe food as disgusting, but
I'm sure I've described some food that way.
Maybe. I guess
there was a pot pie once.
Alan A., welcome to Dad. He says, hey guys, good morning. Wondering if you enjoyed a Sunday roast last week. Oh my gosh, yes,
we did.
Update. We did enjoy a Sunday roast last week. Thank you for asking about that. There was just so much going on this past week that we completely forgot to tell you guys, because I know that we said that we were going to do it.
And we did.
Yeah.
And it was yummy.
So we went to a place in Ambleside, and
it was called the Priest Hole, which just sounds so funny. The Priest Hole. But then I actually looked up what a priest hole is, and a priest hole actually comes back from like Elizabethan times when they were persecuting the Catholics, because the Catholics tried to overthrow her multiple times. And so they persecuted the Catholics, and many of the noble houses that remained Catholic would have what they would call priest holes, which were kind of like little hidey holes where they would like keep the priests, so that, you know, if they ever, you know, had the royal troops come in, they wouldn't get found out. So that is, I
Yeah.
guess, the name Priest Hole. And so
And
we went to
that
a
was
very
an
nice place.
educational experience about what
Yeah.
that history was like, because we
'Cause
had no idea.
Instead, I was just kind of like laughing a little bit. I'm like, Priest Hole, ha. I feel like somebody would shut your priest hole. But yeah.
No,
Good times.
it's a real thing from history. And it was a good restaurant. So Derek, there were 2 options for the Sunday roast, and we both ordered
Different.
one of each. Yeah. So, and then we shared.
Yeah.
So
I got the beef. She got the lamb leg, the leg of lamb.
Yeah.
And I think hers was better. It was very tasty.
Yeah, the lamb was so delicious.
The waiter, we asked.
Oh, yeah.
Eliz was pretty funny. She's like, "Sir, we've never had a Sunday roast. Is there anything we need to know?" And he's like, "No."
He was
very
He
confused.
was probably in his early 20s and just was like shocked to meet somebody who had never had a Sunday roast before. And so, I was just saying, like, if there's anything that we need to know in advance about, the food that's set in front of us, like, are we supposed to eat something first traditionally or something like that, like, please let us know. And he did inform us about the sauces that you're supposed to pair with the meats.
Yeah, he's
that
like, a lot
we
of,
wouldn't have even thought to ask for those traditional sauces with the meats, because we legitimately did not know.
Yeah, he's like, mint sauce with the lamb and mustard with the beef.
Because they brought
So
the Sunday roast, and I think the question was, is there anything that you would like with it?
Do you want any sauces?
And so we wouldn't have even known to order the mint sauce.
Wouldn't have even known it was an option.
Yeah.
So we did that. It was nice. We had dessert afterwards. What did we have for dessert?
I got
sticky toffee pudding.
And I got sorbet.
Yeah, she got sorbet.
Yeah.
And the sticky toffee pudding came with thunder and lightning ice cream.
If
that
you
was
guys
super tasty.
have ever heard of thunder and lightning ice cream before, leave like a thumbs up in the chat, or like any sort of emoji in the chat. Like if you know what that is, because that was something that, because we didn't there was no Wi-Fi at that restaurant, and we didn't bring our hotspot with us, we did not know what Derek was eating.
But it was yummy. I was like,
Yeah.
I like it.
And it was ice cream.
I was like, there's toffee of some kind in this, I think. It was good. It was basically thunder and lightning ice cream. Seems to be a Lake District thing, because we saw it in other places after that. And it ends up being kind of like a vanilla ice cream base with like caramel and chocolate kind of mixed into it, as well as some like pieces of maybe toffee, crunchy toffee or something like that. It's super good.
It was so good. Still, my favorite ice cream of the trip so far has been the Millionaire Shortbread ice cream that we got outside of Tintagel Castle in Cornwall. That was, stop the presses, best ice cream I may have ever had in my life.
Yeah, that Millionaire Shortbread ice cream in Tintagel was freaking awesome.
But the Thunder and Lightning ice cream was definitely, a come from behind surprise delight of the Lake District.
Yeah, it was
and we
very
didn't know
good.
because we had never heard anybody say it before. And I even lived in London when I started abroad. I've never heard of Thunder and Lightning ice cream before. I didn't know, and I still don't know if it's like a regional thing to the Lake District, or if it's like, just to a brand that sells its ice cream in that area, or if it's an actual flavor that you can find all over the UK. So, yeah. Sounds like a couple people have never heard of it either. It has like chocolate and caramel mixed in, which, I mean, what's not to love? Seriously.
Yeah, it was good.
And then my dad was asking too, does Scotland do Sunday roast too? We are not sure yet. If anybody's Scottish or has been to Scotland and knows the answer to that, please let us know, because it's really fun to learn from the folks in this chat too, and share, information, around, and because everybody on this chat, is interested in travel and maybe has different experiences than us. So
yeah. And so one thing real quick though that I wanted to say at the top of this and at the very beginning was, today is Sunday. And, this day in the UK is very important, actually. It's Remembrance Sunday right now, remembering, fallen warriors and those of the armed services, particularly around World War I. So.
And it's kind of the equivalent of Veterans Day in the U.S. And folks wear poppy pins in remembrance, and they've been wearing them on all the news anchors have been wearing them all week. And we did watch a live broadcast of the royal family and many members of the military having a ceremony this morning. So it's a really important day, really. If you're ever in the UK in November, our understanding is that it's been a little bit more toned down than was originally planned because of what's going on right now with the pandemic. But yeah, it's really interesting to see it all the ceremonies and all of the poppy pins everywhere that we go.
Yeah, not just that, but there's also just kind of like pop-up memorials and stuff kind of all over the place. So most towns that we go to have, have each town has some kind of memorial that is kind of like a pop-up silhouette of soldiers that you see kind of throughout the UK right now, or at least throughout England. We were seeing a lot of them.
Yeah.
I haven't noticed them as much here in Scotland, but we also haven't been in like cities as much or towns. We're a little bit rural right now.
A little bit. I mean, I guess we're in the biggest town in the Highlands.
Town in the Highlands right now, but we haven't gone like into town yet, really. So
no.
It's.
We went to the grocery store though. That was
How do you think I got this? Yummy.
The supermarket. Yeah.
Close these.
Yeah, we can close. It's starting to get a little bit dark. So it is 4:17 here. It has been a bit rainy all day, so like the sunset, as you can kind of see behind me, is not as glorious as it has been in past days. Yesterday especially. Ooh, now I got like really bright because Derek moved the light a lot closer. Wow, you're making me look like a ghost. Let's not go too far.
It's just a little grainy.
Yeah, I think maybe this helps it. Yeah, it was grainy before, but hopefully this helps it be a little bit crisper for you guys.
What I'm doing.
Because I'm certainly not as tan as it made it look in the past lighting scenario.
What's up?
All right, so let's answer some more of these wonderful questions. Keto Dancer, welcome.
What's up, Keto Dancer?
I don't know if we know you personally or not. I know Derek was super into the keto diet.
Keto's great.
Yeah, and he's gone off and on the keto diet for a long time.
But now I'm drinking beer, so that's not really keto.
Yeah. We're very, very supportive of that.
And you asked a question, are you able to leave Scotland or travel within it? Yes, we are able to travel within Scotland right now.
Sort of.
But we can. We can't go to Tier 3 locations. Tier 3 locations include Glasgow, Edinburgh, Ayrshire, a bunch of the areas around, kind of they call that Central Belt area.
And all of the information about where Tier 3 locations are can be found on
the Scottish government
website.
Yep.
Yes.
And they even have like postcode lookups, so you can look up the specific postcodes of where you're at and what the restrictions are in those given places. So, for instance, yesterday we went to Castle Stalker, which is a really cool castle from like the 1300s. That's half-hour drive away from here, but that's in an area known as Argyll and Bute. Bute, and that is an area that's in Tier 2. So where we are now in the Highlands is Tier 1, that's the lowest tier. Tier 2, you can still go to and visit and things are still open. Tier 3 is the first one where you can't go there if you're in a lower tier location. So no travelers are going in and out of Edinburgh, Glasgow, etc. right now.
So as we were, I'm sure many of you have watched our video that we posted on Halloween last Saturday about our decision process and what decisions we were contemplating, knowing that an English lockdown was imminent. It hadn't actually been announced yet. It got announced a few hours after we posted that video, but we knew that it was coming. And as things unfolded about the details behind that lockdown, there was a moment in time that Scotland started considering going into lockdown itself for mostly just...
It was economic reasons.
Yeah, economic reasons.
So it was that, so in the UK they have a thing called the furlough scheme, which basically supports 80% of the wages of people who can no longer work because of lockdowns and whatnot. So what Scotland was saying was basically that if England only extends the furlough through the period in which England's under a lockdown, which is until December the 2nd, that maybe they would go into a lockdown, preventatively while they could still get that government support.
Because as the counts kind of are right now, Scotland doesn't necessarily need to go into a lockdown, and they've been in a tier system for quite some time, longer than England had been,
No, they only. That's not true.
I'm striking that. Yeah. Actually, it's a slightly not true, but there's a lot of complication involved behind that. Yeah. But they had implemented restrictions and like with it, regional restrictions before, like kind of. I don't know.
No, let me. So. The way it works, right, is that Scotland announced a 5-tier system. There's tier 0, which is nearly normal, basically as good as it gets pre-vaccine. Nobody's in a tier 0, all the way up to tier 4. So that's the 5 tiers: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Tier 4 being basically a lockdown, and that only came into effect on November the 2nd. So Monday, November 2nd, was the first time that came into effect, and that basically gives them the flexibility to lock everybody down if they want to, because they can just put everybody into tier 4 and then you're in a lockdown. Or they can be a little bit more nuanced, in each local administrative area, or whatever they call it, can go into its own separate tiers that the government can implement. So it gives them a little bit more flexibility in areas like the Highlands, where the numbers look really good, or at least they've been looking very good, to keep things open so that they're not torpedoing the entire economy. They don't have to, right?
Yeah.
And they can still lock down specific locations if they feel that they need to, say, for Edinburgh or Glasgow. So that's kind of what they have, and they want to keep that structure. They think that it will work. They think that they are seeing numbers that look relatively promising at the beginning, so they don't want to go into a lockdown if they don't have to. But it was about, if the furlough, if the government money was only going to be there until December the 2nd, they didn't want to have to go into a lockdown on December 3rd, and then not have access to that money. But happily, since we've gotten here, the government has announced that the furlough scheme will go until like the end of March, which means that there's a lot more wiggle room for Scotland to kind of see if this structure is working, and implement a lockdown later if they have to.
So what we're doing right now is not only monitoring Scotland's stuff, but also Wales and Northern Ireland as they come out of their lockdowns, in potentially just looking at whether or not it could be a possibility to visit those places. I'm not saying that it is in any way, but just what that might look like.
Well, I mean,
and
we're
going into
hopeful.
Scotland gave us a little bit more optionality than staying in England, or of course going home to the U.S.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know what the exact dates are, but it's like, I think Wales comes out of their lockdown restriction.
I think it's this weekend, or sorry, this week.
Sometime this week.
Yeah.
And I think Northern Ireland comes out in like the 9th of November.
Mo fact check us.
Mo fact check us.
The 9th is tomorrow. So
it was really soon. It was coming out. So basically what that means is if they do come out of those lockdowns, we would then have a potential route to go to these other places. And there are ferries from Scotland over to Northern Ireland. So we might be able to actually get over there, which would be nice.
Yeah. So if we had to leave Scotland, we'd have to basically go not to England or go kind of directly to Heathrow in order to answer Keto Dancer's question. Lori Sim says, "Good morning, all. A little late, but happy to be here. We're so happy that you're here too, Lori. No worries about that. We pretty much just started, I feel. But for those of you who have joined a little bit more recently, our biggest update is that we are live streaming right now from Fort William, Scotland. We made the decision to go up to the Highlands. We are now in the largest town in the Highlands. And we've been exploring a lot of like the trails around here and doing a lot more of like really rural, fun, cool Highland stuff.
Yeah, the good news is that the weather up here is actually pretty decent, and it's
So
milder, and it's going to be in like the 50s basically the whole time we're up here, which is nice.
Which I've been kind of on the fence of like, do I need to buy a winter coat? Because Derek really wants to do the North Coast 500 next week. And I don't really have appropriate waterproof coat.
You have a waterproof coat.
For cold weather. Yeah, I have a waterproof coat. And like, if you follow us at all on Instagram, that's the only thing I've been wearing for 2 months in my Instagram stories. Like, my outfits under the coat are like meaningless because it's just the coat that you see. But yeah, so it's definitely an interesting situation that we're in, that it's going to be darker, like, you know, like a lot fewer daylight hours. If we do the North Coast 500, a lot more things are closed and a lot more questionable weather. But there's a very large chance that we're going to do it next week. So
I'm doing
keep
it.
your fingers
I mean, I
crossed
don't know
for
what
us.
she's doing, but I'm doing it. So
I'll be doing it too. But yeah, so let's try to get through some people have some really good questions and comments, and then we kind of have a little bit of like a interesting like journey to Scotland that we thought we would share with you guys too. That we ran into some travel hiccups that, you know, very typical. I think we kind of alluded and
when you drive this
earlier.
much, you're gonna have issues. Let's just go there.
Yeah.
But let's catch up on some other stuff. So Purdue says, "Hey, when I followed all the stations channel, they did Airbnb overnight stay at a unique place in Scotland. Google Concur Signal Box. It's a trained signal room you can stay overnight in. Pretty unique."
Awesome.
And he then followed up with, "FYI, I see that the Concur Signal Box is 36 miles to your southeast." Again, it's a very unique overnight stay. Instagrammy, if that is a word. Which it is a word, I think. I believe that should be part of the lexicon now. So southeast, we would have to look because, you know, what the tier looks like and if we would be able to stay in a place like that. But yeah, no, that's cool. We'll have to look that up.
Yeah. So different people saying hello. Mary Ellen, no worries if you missed the very, very beginning. Yeah, Purdue, there is a lot of lamb in the UK, but
A lot of lamb, a lot of sheep.
we hadn't really ordered a lot. Well, first of all, we're not going to as many restaurants on this trip as we have gone to in past trips. I mean, we're staying a lot more Airbnbs. We're doing a lot more cooking than in prior trips to the UK for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, lamb is a very, very big staple at dinners, I would say. Probably
And
not
I like
lunches.
it. I love lamb.
We've been also making a ton of sandwiches as we've been doing a lot more like hiking trails.
Lots of
and stuff.
ham.
So we've been doing ham and cheese sandwiches for, I feel like, 2 months. It's definitely
So yummy.
like, and we'll switch out the cheese and stuff. It might be cheddar, it might be Gouda or something like that. But the ham has been a pretty solid staple because I feel like that's fairly authentically British. Like every time you go into a Costa coffee or something like that, there's a ham and cheese toasty available. It's definitely a lot less of like the oven roasted turkey or the chicken that you might find in the US. It's very ham forward at lunchtime.
Yeah. So, but next to the most important question the entire night, Mo asks, "Are you guys planning to try a fried Myers bar? Just don't look at the calories." Of course, yes. For you guys, just for you guys, I will eat one and tell you what I think.
Just you guys.
Just twist my arm a little bit, and I will do it. So yeah, I'll try it. Why not? I've never tried one before. We've been to Scotland multiple times, and I've never had one before. But that's like a very famous thing here. Like people are like, when people think of Scottish food, like I remember I was the first time I came up here, I was taking a train from London to Edinburgh when we were in college to do kind of like a solo trip, just me. And one of the guys I was sitting next to, I still remember his name was Alistair, and I remember thinking that's like the most British name I've ever heard, and it was awesome. And he was like, "Yeah, just don't expect fine food while you're there." He's like, "It's more like fried Mars bars." And I was just like, okay, I'm into this.
If you seek it out, you can definitely find.
There's good food here. There's
here.
actually really good food here.
Yeah.
But he did not think so. He was from New York. So.
So I guess we'll find that. Have we had one before? We've been to Scotland a lot.
No, I just said that we've never had one.
Yeah.
I've never had one, unless you had
How
one
did I
when you
miss
came
that?
without me.
I don't think I did.
No, I don't know.
That is something I would try too. Just because, so Mars bars are basically like a Milky Way in the U.S., and that's one of my just top favorite candy bars.
And I mean, Mo, we're from the United States, which is like the home of like deep fried Twinkies and other things that you just shouldn't deep fry, but we do anyways.
For sure. I'm not a big person on fried food just because I have a history of acid reflux in my family, and fried food is just terrible for that. But,
Beer number 1.
yeah, so I try to avoid fried food here and there. Obviously, still eat French fries as much,
As much as possible.
If they're placed in front of me.
Yeah.
But yeah. It's not something like if I'm between like a fried Mars bar and just a Mars bar, maybe I would eat the Mars bar, but I'm gonna try this. I feel like it's gonna be delicious.
Oh, I'm sure it's yummy.
Like flavor profile, solid.
Just eat it all. Okay, so Alan A says, if pudding equals dessert, what do Brits call actual pudding? And Purdue responded with custard. There we go.
So custard in the U.S. is different than pudding.
Yeah, it's similar.
It's similar, but like if
Same
you go to
consistency.
Culver's, for example,
Culver's,
in the
yum.
Midwest,
Yum.
it's like a chain that basically specializes in butter.
Frozen custard.
And custard,
And
yeah.
butter. Butter burgers, yummy.
Yeah, so it's a... Custard's like slightly different than pudding, but similar, yeah.
Okay, so Purdue's talking about 11-11-11.
So for those of you guys who don't know, Derek and my wedding anniversary is actually 11/11.
Yep, Veterans
We
Day.
got married on Veterans Day in the U.S.
Just so happened to be a
2016.
Saturday for us, which was nice,
Yeah.
and we like 11/11. It's a good number. We also like veterans. We have a number of veterans in our families, and thought that was a great way to honor them as well. Yeah. So.
And Bonnie says it's Remembrance Day in Canada on Wednesday. Yeah. So similar to in the U.S., but we do call it Veterans Day there. Remembrance, Armistice, and Veterans Day. Yeah. And for any like former military people that are tuning in right now, obviously want to say thank you.
Yes,
regardless
thank you for your
of
service.
if you're in the UK, Canada, US, etc. Like, just volunteering for that type of service is extremely commendable, and we thank you for that.
Darian, if you're watching this on replay, I don't think you're on right now, but thank you for your service. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we know Darian has done that. And then Alan A says, I just read this morning that the Remembrance Sunday poppies from Scotland are a different shape than the rest of the UK. Only can be made in Scotland.
Interesting.
Did not know that.
I didn't know that either. I did
that's
notice
fun
that the
fact.
Queen had a lot of poppies.
She did.
Most people have one poppy. She had like 7.
Yeah, she had a really cool brooch.
Yeah,
it was like a bouquet of
very nice
poppies.
brooch.
Yeah, this morning. Elizabeth's. Roger Sexton says Remembrance Day was a lot quieter this year in England. Yeah, there's usually a very big formal procession and march past Whitehall.
Don't read Moe's.
Okay. Just read it.
Mini drone.
We have a DJI gimbal.
Yeah, so actually it's funny because I follow some people on the YouTubes who do like photography stuff, and I think that Peter McKinnon, who's a huge YouTube photography guy, his thumbnail for his review on the Mini 2 I think was pretty awesome, where he put it in between like a sandwich to show how small it was. It was like between bread and lettuce and that was pretty fun. I like that.
By the way, hi Blaine, and welcome. Blaine's Rayleigh Creative Travel. I know we're a little bit behind, but I just saw that you popped
Nicole
on. And Nicole, thanks for joining, Nicole.
Eric Zwart, hello.
Zwart,
and Eric, man, you were up late last night with Darian. That's So for those who don't know, Darian does live streams as well, and he had one for us. It was considered last night. And for Eric, it was even later because you're an hour ahead of us because you're on the continent. And yeah, you and him chatted it up. Yeah. I've only seen the first little bit of it. I need to go back and watch it all, but very, very cool.
Yeah. And Keto Dancer says, after quarantine, Wait, no, hold on. Sorry, I skipped
I'm currently
ahead.
in London.
Hi, I'm currently in London. We'll go back to the USA next week. Did the 14-day quarantine, just like we did. Thanks for the tip about ordering groceries before leaving the USA. It was a lifesaver. I'm so glad to hear that you watched that video and that it was helpful. Yeah. Because there's so few of us who are in that position of, you know, traveling internationally right now. And you know, it validates the fact that we're making these videos. So thank you so much.
But so what she's saying is that after quarantine, we spent the weekend in. Okay, I'm assuming you're a female.
Yeah, you're assuming it's a female, but it could be totally.
It could be a male as well. I don't know. But Keto Dancer spent the weekend in Cornwall before coming back to London to help my son move into uni. Nice. Now I'm exploring London as part of my permitted lockdown exercise walking, which is really cool because the thing about the exercise provision in this round of lockdown in England is that there's no time limit. Before, you could only do it. The last time they did it, you could do it for 1 hour. Now it's unlimited. And they're saying that sitting on a bench counts. So you can go out, have a nice day, stroll around, sit on a bench, rest. You don't have to be just like constantly moving.
And I believe, and tell me if I'm misremembering, but you can sit 6 feet away from somebody from another household.
Yeah, so you can be like one other person. Yeah, in a park.
And so you guys can be on like separate benches. That's so nice that you were
You guys can pretend like you're in a spy movie and you're in separate benches and you're like talking to each other, just like looking forward. Like,
sorry that Jared keeps
kicking the table. It's very shaky. So what we have here, actually, it's not like a proper table in our Airbnb. It's we call it a gate leg table. If you've ever heard of those, basically it's a table that has like a very narrow piece and then it folds up and it has like 2 wings that make it into like a proper sized table. These types of tables typically tend to be a little bit more wobbly, and especially when you're in like a building that maybe doesn't have the most perfectly level like floorboards, it makes it a little wobbly.
Yeah. But Keto Dancer, I just wanted to circle back to what you were saying about ordering groceries in advance, because I'm assuming you follow the keto diet, and that might be an extreme challenge if you're trying to just order food or something like that. And so I'm really, really glad to hear that you were able to order groceries likely for that diet. And so Derek and I actually just made some keto pasta last night. We're not following the diet right now. I will preface that. But, you know, if you're still on this live chat, we kind of don't recommend this pasta. It was not good, but we got it from Ocado.
It's called Carb Zone.
It was not good.
This is the worst low-carb pasta I've ever had.
It really was. I tried 2 noodles and I was like, I'm not having this.
Don't do it. Not a fan. I don't know.
Yeah.
I made it last night though because we kind of got drunk.
No, we did not.
I kind of over-imbibed a little bit while talking to family and friends and stuff. Back in the U.S., we spent yesterday talking to a lot of family and stuff. Catching up. And we skipped dinner. And then I was like, it was probably like 9:30, like, can we order delivery? Is there Domino's here? There's no Domino's. So I ended up making myself that pasta, and it was not good.
Yeah, it really wasn't. So don't order that off of Ocado.
So Roger Sexton says, ham and cheese sandwiches every day, you're adopting British habits. Yes, we are. Basically. Oh, and Mo is saying 13th of November for Northern Ireland. They might extend the closure for bars, restaurants for an additional 2 weeks.
That makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
If they have access to the furlough, especially.
Yeah, Purdue's saying state fair food. Yeah, so like the state fair, like, so I'm from the Midwest, right? So I'm from Indiana. So the Indiana State Fair is like home of like deep fried everything. Twinkies, Kit Kats, like you name it, they deep fry it. So, a Mars bar is pretty, par for the course for me. Alan A says, it's 4:30 p.m. there, and it looks pretty dark. Are you guys getting used to the shorter
Yeah, you guys want to see? So it's 4:40 now. It's dark.
Yeah. I think this is actually technically sunset, but it was so overcast today that it's kind of looked like this for a lot of the day.
Yeah. There's a lock behind there, though.
There's a lock out there. It's very nice.
Loch Linny.
Which is a very large lock, actually, Loch Linny.
It is. Like long? Is long? Yeah.
Maybe that's what Linny means. I don't know. Long lock. So we are here, and I mean, the sun rises around like 7:40 or something like that, and sets at like 4:30-ish. It's rather short days. We're getting a little bit used to it. We have had a lot of discussions where we're like, we need to wake up earlier,
like way before sunrise, so that way we can get out the door at sunrise.
It's hard when the sun's not up to get up and out of bed, but that's the challenge every year around wintertime, no matter what. So we're starting to get used to it, and we're trying to build that into our schedule so we can be out and about for the sunlight hours.
Yeah. I'm going to skip really quick to what Klaus is saying, and then we'll circle back to catch up. Klaus says Denmark has just been removed from the UK travel corridor list because we had a mink situation going on. We can still enter the UK if we quarantine, but they canceled all flights.
Wow. Yeah, no, I saw that Denmark was culling their mink population.
We saw that on the BBC today, on BBC News. I didn't... Yeah, okay, so I remember back, at the beginning of the pandemic, that there are certain animals that can transfer the disease and stuff like that. And there were like cats, I think, that had symptoms or something like that, but not dogs. So I didn't realize that they're still learning which animals can do that. So that was kind of like when we saw that, I want to say probably like 4 or 5 hours ago. It was eye-opening to me that we're still learning so much. And, we just have to kind of, as we go, keep ourselves, on the pulse, keep ourselves educated.
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny. So, totally different subject, but Purdue is saying that his favorite YouTube is the lock-picking lawyer, which is funny because except for yesterday, I actually somehow I got served the lockpicking lawyer on YouTube, and so I watched like 2 of his videos where he was like getting like challenge locks sent to him for him to try to pick, and
we were totally targeted.
and like I watched one of his videos yesterday, so that's like really funny that you mentioned that because I was like, how did I get served this? Maybe I got served it because you watched so many, and
you watch
there
our
we go.
Channel. Yeah,
we're
we have to start looking up all the Scottish ones, all the Scottish YouTube stuff to watch for sure.
That I don't think the lock-picking lawyer has anything to do with Scotland. He's American.
Oh, lock-picking.
I think he's just saying it's funny. Law.
It's such a guy thing.
It's a guy thing. Yeah. So no, it's great. I thought it was fun. It was like I think that he got one. It was like a bike lock that I guess like the background was like some locksmith had like told a guy that it was like totally unpickable, and the guy sent one to the lockpick lawyer, and he did it in like 28 seconds. It was super quick. Yeah. Very cool. Did we skip some guys now?
I think we skipped a few. I had gone right to
Martin Wright. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hello. Glad you decided to stick it out here. So are we.
We are too.
So far, very happy we are here. We got to see the Jacobite steam train the other day.
Martin, are you in Scotland or just where in the UK are you? I'm curious when you say here.
that'd be cool to know.
Yeah, but okay, so yeah, you're saying we got to see the Jacobite steam train. Where else have we been? And you say that while I need a refill.
Can you give me another beer?
Yeah, I can do that.
Dealer's choice, whichever one. Sure. So yesterday we went to Morrison's for some shopping. Morrison's is a local, it's a UK-based shopping grocery store, and I picked up a bunch of Scottish beers basically. So I'm gonna try a bunch of different ones with all of you. And this time I'm having Belhaven Black Scottish Stout.
Do you need an opener?
Yes, I do. Because I do not have any cool tricks. I don't know how to do one of these things or anything like that.
Where is the opener in this kitchen?
There's a
Oh, can you use this? Yeah, you can.
Yeah. Perfect. So, let's see here. Blaine was saying, just popping in and say, hey, we just pulled out, headed to Myrtle Beach. Take care, all. Cool. Have fun. Safe travels. Drive safe.
Enjoy Myrtle Beach, Blaine.
So, Nicole, I apologize if I mispronounce your name. Nicole Fwinnett says, was chatting yesterday with a friend from Belfast, and she said they have another week of lockdown. Also, she said medical professionals are calling for an extension to salvage Christmas. That's interesting.
That makes sense.
You know, I can understand, like, saying, like, hey, let's just, like, right now, it's not the holidays yet, but why don't we extend it a little bit so that hopefully the holidays can be a little bit better. I mean, the government here in the UK, or in England, not here, but in England, has already said that, you know, they will reevaluate and potentially extend it further if they feel that they have to. The hope, again, being that they can salvage some semblance of normalcy, or at least something for Christmas.
Yeah, and just a friendly reminder to the folks, you know, in Canada and the U.S., is that the UK doesn't have Thanksgiving. So Christmas is extremely sacred as a time when people here, you know, get together with their families. So salvaging Christmas is kind of salvaging the, like, happiness.
Some family institutions, and stuff like that.
You know, with to an extent, I want to give, you know, credit to the fact that this is not, you know, a fully Christian nation, and not everybody celebrates Christmas here, but like it's definitely all over the news here. When you watch the news, people want to make sure that they can see family at Christmas. That it's a very hot topic.
Yeah. So Purdue says, was always wondering if the UK folks wonder why Americans do not adopt the tradition of wearing a poppy on the lapel. I think, but not sure, it stems from some poppies are illegal to grow in the U.S. I do not know.
But my dad, Alan A., makes a point that there are certain nonprofit organizations that hand out paper poppies, and, you know, my dad saying in the U.S. specifically, I definitely remember growing up in the Chicago suburbs and seeing my dad come home from commuting to work in Chicago, and he had a poppy pin and stuff like that.
Yep. So Marilyn Dillon says, I've been looking for a Gateway table due to limited space. So we had one that we bought from Crate and Barrel when we were in New York, because, you know, we lived in New York for 8 years, and we had definitely some very limited space.
We had a circular one.
No,
that one was not from Crate and Barrel.
No, we had a black Gateway table from Crate and Barrel in our Manhattan apartment.
Yeah.
So we lived in Manhattan for, I don't know, 4 years, 5 years, something like that.
In Manhattan, we lived for 4 years. 4 years. And then, but in New York City, we lived, because we lived in Queens for 4 years.
Yeah, so 8 years in total. But when we were in Manhattan, we had very limited space. We had a one-bedroom, kind of in Midtown Manhattan, and not a lot of space. Definitely not space for a dedicated table. So what we ended up doing was getting a gate leg table that was this kind of all black wooden thing, and when it folded all the way out, you could squeeze 6 people around it. Otherwise, it took up the size of probably about that wide.
Yeah, it was exactly like the table that we're actually sitting at, where both sides folded down. Yeah. So
it basically got as wide as it was tall.
The middle part that was always up was 9 inches. So that was a good one. Yeah. I don't know if they still sell it, because it's been probably like quite 9 years since we bought it now. But I know that like IKEA makes them. You can get them from Wayfair. Like, you know, you can find them from a lot of places.
So, Purdue says, where's hair? Eleni says the U.S.
Yeah, and that was in reference to the poppy.
Poppies, okay. Roger Sexton says, remember, the days are shorter the further north you go. Mm-hmm. Yes, we know that. And so, because of that, we're looking at doing the North Coast 500, which we've mentioned. And one of the things about that is that we are very aware that the days are getting shorter, and Derek, we don't want to drive.
For the folks who don't know the North Coast 500.
Sorry, so the North Coast 500 is a 500-mile route around the north of Scotland that starts in Inverness, goes around the north coast, and then ends back in Inverness again. So if you are looking at a map of Scotland, there's like a little, it's not little, it's 500 miles, but like there's like a jut up from Inverness, and you basically go around the coast. And it's important because you're not just like taking the shortest route to different locations. You're driving along the coast. There's a predefined route that you're supposed to take. And it doesn't include Isle of Skye, but we do plan when we do this. We're going to include Isle of Skye and go probably stay there for maybe a week.
Because why not? It's so beautiful.
It is. And the last time we were there, we spent like one night there. So we need to go there for a longer period of time so we can actually see everything. But because we're going to be there during a time when there's less daylight, we understand that that means that there's less that we can do in any given day. So what we're planning on doing is instead of you could do the North Coast 500 probably in like 5 days. That's the minimum amount of time that people say that you need to do it.
And that's the minimum amount of time that people say, and likely they're referring to high season for it. So we don't enjoy driving at night. You totally could.
Well,
but
that's not even the case. It's not about driving at night. It's that half the reason that you do this is for the beautiful views that you have while you drive. Yeah. And if you're driving at night, you're going to be losing out on like 60% of the experience. So for us, we definitely want to make sure that we're doing our driving during the daytime to see things. And we're also using the daylight to do excursions, hikes, and see the things that we want to see. We understand that the North Coast 500 for us is likely a once-in-a-lifetime thing. We're probably not going to do it again. So we want to do it well. So likely we're going to probably do maybe 10 days, which we think will probably give us enough time to do it and see the things that we want to see. But if we need to add a day or two, we will. So we're still in the planning stages. We're going to kind of get that figured out over the next probably 2 to 3 days. Before we head up to Inverness, where we plan to spend probably 4 nights after here so that we can get through the next live stream in Inverness where we plan to have good internet for you guys.
Hopefully.
No promises.
But we plan it. So we'll be like most likely live streaming from Inverness next week. Hopefully you guys can join. Yeah. And then Roger Sexton says, remember the days are short. Yeah, the further you go north. And he also said hello from Nottingham. So sending you good vibes over to Nottingham because I know there's a lot going on with restrictions there. So hopefully you and your family and friends are all doing well. Yeah. Okay, so seems like there's a lot of conversations going on. We're going to try to like channel it, but also too, I think we are catching up a little bit. If you do have other questions for us about Scotland or travel in general or just anything, we're here to help answer those today and always on Sundays. So this is like our travel Q&A time. And we have been to a lot of different places and experienced a lot of different types of travel. So if anybody's interested in asking us questions, we're here to help.
So Nicole, real quick. So well done. You have pronounced my name correctly.
Nice,
it doesn't happen very often, particularly where I live in the UK, as there is a large local Italian population, which I assume means they're probably pronouncing it like Fuianette.
Yeah,
or
probably.
Something like that. It's so Nicole, I assume based on your name you might be French. I'm not sure, but very cool. Would love to know like where in the UK you actually live.
Yeah.
Like what part general. You don't have to be specific, but what part in general you live in. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. So Mary Ellen and Dylan will look at Crate and Barrel. Very cool. We're not sponsored by them, but if they wanted to, let us know.
Yeah, Crate and Barrel. We
buy a lot of our furniture from you guys, so there we go. Purdue, I caught the slight shake of a head upon the mention of the NC 500. I sensed dissent.
Okay, so it's not that I don't want to do the NC 500. It's that I'm a little bit wary of the time of year that we're looking at it. So a lot of if you really like dig into the travel advice for it, it's like make sure you stay in a town that has 2 restaurants or something like that, so you have a little bit of optionality. And it's like we're gonna be going during off season. There might be 2 restaurants in August, but you might be eating a Spar convenience store takeaway sandwich in November.
Which I'm fine with. I'm totally cool with that.
We'll see where things go with that. You guys will all be, told about what that experience is like on the live streams. And then I'm sure we've just so everybody's aware, we have been filming daily travel vlogs.
Yeah.
It's because there's so much.
It's very labor intensive.
Yeah, there's a lot of like work that goes into actually publishing a travel vlog. That this is a pretty new channel. We have probably I think 80 videos at this point. A lot of them are live streams, but we are focusing on creating the content and filming the content while we're here, and it's going to be released as we are able to
get it edited.
Yeah. So the video that's coming out most urgently is going to be a follow-up to this live stream where we talk about our thought process about why we decided to go to Scotland versus go home or stay in England. That's probably coming out tomorrow.
And then Tuesday will be a live, or not
Tuesday
a live,
will be our Travel
Tip
Tuesday.
Travel Tip Tuesday, yeah.
And as I'm trying to figure out timing wise, like publishing 4 videos a week is, including a live stream is extremely labor intensive. So we're also trying to make sure that we actually do things while we're here. So it's going to happen. You guys are going to be kept in the loop, but the live streams and our Instagram stories are the fastest way to know what we're up to, for sure.
Unless you go to mine, because I've gotten super behind in my Instagram stories.
I've been extremely on point with mine.
She's been on point, but I'm driving all day, so I get actually, like, by the time we get to a place, and if I've been driving, it's a little bit stressful driving in the UK. That's just the truth of it, because as you drive in the UK on the other side of the road in narrow winding roads with like hedges or drop-offs into a lock or whatever, it gets on you. So by the time we're done, even if I haven't driven for hours and hours and hours, even if it's only like 2 hours of driving, I'm done. I'm done for the day. And so...
And he's the only driver, because
I'm the only driver.
Different about renting a car in the U.S. versus the UK is even if you have a spouse, which we are spouses, you have to pay here.
It's like £12 a day.
I think it's 12 or 13 pounds a day per driver.
Yeah.
Or for an additional driver. Yeah. And so for a 64-day rental.
Well, there is an upper limit on what they will charge you. There is like a threshold after which they won't charge you, but it's still a lot of money. So we decided that I'll just do all the driving. So I do it. It's fine. I actually like driving, but it does get to you after a little while.
I like navigating.
She's better. I'm a terrible navigator. She's great at it.
I didn't say it.
So the whole thing being though that we definitely by the end of the day I'm a little drained, and so I've been slow to update my stories. I actually just put out a few from Bath. I'm gonna put out some more from Bath. That's like a week to a week and a half behind.
Yeah, like way more than a week ago, because we were in the Lake District
for like 5 days.
We were in the Lake District on Halloween when we published the last
video.
video.
So I'll probably end up doing Bath and the Cotswolds today. And then I'll do the Lake District stuff after that. So it'll be good.
Follow us.
So Luis,
if
welcome.
If you wanna see our kind of day to day, our Instagram handles are down there. If you guys have Instagram, and that way you'll know a little bit more if you want to keep updated about where we're at day to day, especially on mine. And then we'll be launching all those travel vlogs as we go.
Yeah. So Luis Aguayo. Luis is my great grandfather's name. So very nice to meet you.
And your brother's middle name.
And my brother's middle name. Did you guys ever get checked up on while in quarantine? No, never once.
There was one live stream that we mentioned this, that at 9 p.m. on the first Saturday of our quarantine, we heard it like a knock on our door, and we're like, this is it. This is when they're checking up on us, because this is the time that they should check up on us.
Yeah. Turns out it was our neighbor's door. There was nobody at our door.
Yeah,
so it was fine,
yeah. It was either our neighbor's door or somebody accidentally knocked on ours by mistake. Yeah, so we didn't get checked up on, but that doesn't mean that you wouldn't.
Yeah.
Maybe the UK government was like, we're watching all of your 14 days of quarantine video and see that you guys are taking it seriously. I don't know.
Probably
maybe
not.
they were like, we see where your cell phones are, and you're probably okay because Big Brother. We don't know. So
Mary Ellen Dillon says sunset in Connecticut is 4:35 p.m. right now. Sad face. Yeah, same here. Yeah, it's not great. Tom Shaner says, good morning, afternoon, evening, everyone. Hey, Tom. Nice to see you.
Hi, Tom. Welcome. Thanks for joining.
And Alan A. is saying in a Wisconsin group I follow, they are debating where up north begins. Some were saying above the 45th parallel, but all of the UK is above the 50th parallel. Is there an agreed upon up north in the UK? So that's funny because when we were driving up here, we did notice that there is a sign as you're heading north that says the North, capital T, capital N. And I told Eliz that I felt like I was in an episode.
And on the opposite direction
of Game of Thrones.
Okay, so
going to the north.
Let me just point out the fact that I took a video of those signs from the back of a tow truck, and I don't know if we've really gotten into this. But if you go the opposite direction, it says the south. So they're very clear about like the north versus the south here.
Yeah, it's funny.
But I don't know if there's like a necessary. I don't know if there's necessarily a
delineation.
Like a line of latitude that delineates it.
Yep. So Nicole is saying that she lives 50 miles north of London in Bedford. I'm not French, but my ancestors were. They were Huguenots who fled religious persecution in France 300 years ago. Very cool. Very interesting.
That is cool.
Well, not cool that they were persecuted, but cool that you know your family
that you're
history.
able to track that. Yeah.
Purdue says, for UK North-South debate, very Monty Python-esque. Find Jay Foreman, Mapman, YouTube. Where is the North/South divide? It's hilarious. I'm going to have to look that up because I love Monty Python. It's so funny. Purdue says...
UK Mason-Dixon line. Never heard of that. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's debated if that became a topic of conversation. Because there's like the north of England, and then there's... But we didn't see signs for the north until we were in Carlisle, which is like legitimately the north of England.
Yeah. Carlisle's like the last city in the north of England. What do we have here?
Do we want to kind of like we sort of share in the video that's being released tomorrow what we experienced.
Yeah, but first, Mo says Buttercup was the agent checking up on us. So
that's true.
We're good because Buttercup liked the good scratches, and
Buttercup made sure that we were home at all times. Buttercup was the cat that it was a neighborhood cat that would visit us every single day while we were in quarantine. It was an outdoor cat, and we quarantined in Portsmouth, England, on the south coast. And Derek loved Buttercup so much. So I'm very allergic to cats. Derek loved Buttercup so much. He likes cats. And, that's fine. Cats are fine. I'm just allergic. And they had such a bond that Derek, since leaving Portsmouth, has been like, I miss Buttercup.
I do miss Buttercup, guys, so much.
And while I'm like meeting all these great dogs that people are walking off leash because apparently people do that in Scotland, Derek's missing Buttercup.
We filmed 5 things to bring to Scotland video the other day while we were at Castle Stalker, and so that'll be coming out at some point. But one of the things that after we stopped rolling, we saw this dog off of its lead, just running around, frolicking in the lock. And I told Eliz, I was like, oh man, we should have added a 6th thing, which was bring a dog, because everybody here seems to have a dog. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And that dog was having a great time. swimming in the loch, chasing
Oh my
ducks
gosh,
and
that
geese.
that dog swam basically like across a little inlet of the loch.
It was very cool.
Well done, dog. Bravo.
Bravo to you. So Roger Sexton says, I was brought up in Hertfordshire, just north of London, and up north was Yorkshire/Lancs northward for him. Nice. Yeah, so it was funny because when we're in New York, for us, like, upstate New York was like 45 minutes north of New York City, and that's not really upstate, but...
Yeah, I've always learned, though, and what Roger's saying is true, is the north, when you watch historical, whether it's TV shows or movies that are set in the UK, they consider the north like Manchester and above, which the signage on the roads was a little bit different from that. So I think it's kind of arbitrary,
So,
whatever you really feel like is the north.
yeah. So Luis, where are you from, man? So you're saying I'm trying to go to the UK for a month to see my fiance at the end of March, but don't want to spend 2 weeks in quarantine, so it looks like I'll have to wait to go. Luis, I'd be interested to see where you're from. Are you from the United States, from Spain, from somewhere else? It'd be interesting to hear that.
And for those of you who don't know, Derek is part Mexican. Our last name is Mexican, so he's curious in that way.
Well, I'm just curious generally where he's from.
Yeah.
Nicole says the north starts in Watford Gap, a service station on the M1 in Northamptonshire.
The north starts in Watford Gap.
Okay.
Done.
It's good to know.
Nicole's got it.
That's awesome.
A service station.
Cuse Cruisers. Now, Cuse Cruisers are from...
Like Syracuse.
Syracuse.
Yeah.
Cuse.
Hi,
Syracuse.
guys.
What's
Welcome.
up?
Thanks
You guys
for
are in
joining.
Syracuse. That is upstate New York.
Yeah.
That is legitimately
That's
upstate.
kind of like... Okay, so the north versus upstate New York. That's where I feel like there's some parallels, because we lived in New York City for 8 years, and like
Upstate was anything north of like Winchester, or not? Westchester.
Yeah, Westchester County. Yeah. Like anything north of Westchester
We're
County.
like, oh,
was
you're from upstate.
And it'd be like,
No,
okay,
no,
so
you're
they're
not.
an hour outside of New York City.
Yeah. Now I will say, having driven north quite a bit from New York, I will say that it is just shocking how quickly it changes.
And it's beautiful.
It's beautiful, and it becomes very, very much more rural as you get out of New York City, and very quickly, much more quickly than I anticipated.
So when I was growing up, we had we did family reunions in my family every 2 years, which, I thought was very normal growing up, but I realized that a lot of families don't do that, and I kind of took it for granted until I became an adult. And so I've been very connected with my cousins ever since then. 2 of our family reunions were in Chautauqua, New York, which was in the western part of the state, and it was kind of equidistant. And if you think about equidistant from Chicago and New York, the fact that you're still in New York by the time you've reached that equidistant point shows you how big the state of New York actually is.
Yeah.
It wasn't, I mean, I'm giving
massive.
it to you guys. It's not quite equidistant. We Chicagoans had to drive a little bit further, and I remember being like, is Ohio ever going to end, when I was 6 years old? But it was just the fact that, like, New York is an absolutely massive state, and you kind of have to understand that when you visit there, that New York City is just the beginning.
Yeah, it's just a piece of it. So Vega Bonnie says all of Canada is the north. So
Sure.
that's fun. That's good. I like that.
Sure.
I like that. And Mexico's the south. I mean, come on. The south and Mexico is the north. Who knew?
But
Alan
yeah, so
A.
I'll try to post a video or whatever that I filmed from the back of our tow truck of the signage that's just like the north.
Yep. So Luis says he lives in Idaho Falls, Idaho, but he was born in Guadalajara, Jalisco.
Awesome. Oh, I've always
cool.
wanted to go to Idaho Falls, and also I want to go to.
I was gonna say Guadalajara. I want to go to.
Well, yeah, that too. But I also really want to go to what's the place that starts with S in Idaho? Snow Valley? No.
Sun Valley.
Sun Valley. That's it.
The opposite.
Opposite of snow.
So Sun Valley is really supposed to be pretty cool.
Sun Valley is only a little bit west of Idaho Falls.
Well, it's supposed to be beautiful, and they do a large conference there every year for the tech community, I think, which is pretty cool. Yeah. All right, so we're pretty caught up at this point, so we can talk a little bit off.
Well, let's share our tow truck in Scotland reasons.
Why did we get towed in Scotland?
Why did we get towed in Scotland? Why did we experience car troubles? We experienced car troubles. Okay.
All right, so starting like 750 miles ago.
As Americans, just remember, we are driving a diesel car.
All right, so in America, there's not a lot of diesel cars. Typically, that's just pretty uncommon. So we are in diesel cars right now. We have a Citroen C5. It's an SUV here. That's a French brand. Very nice, but it's diesel, and we're not used to that. And it has a thing that about 750 miles ago started popping up on our dash saying that we needed to top up our AdBlue starting impossible in 750 miles. We did not know what that meant. I didn't know what that meant. I was the driver, so I was the one getting the messages. So I just kept ignoring it, thinking like, I mean, what does this matter? I mean, AdBlue was like ADBLUE. To me, I'm like, that's
capital A, lowercase d, capital BLUE.
So
if you're European, you're probably like laughing at us right now. But like, I am assuring you guys, we don't drive diesel cars at all in the U.S. Like they are very, very hard to find, and the AdBlue technology that we're about to get into of what it is non-existent. Yeah. So
basically, what it came down to was we kept getting these things like every like 100 miles. It would give us an update saying like, "Hey, starting impossible," blah blah blah. I was misreading that. I didn't read it as the car wouldn't start in 750 miles. I read it as you can't top it up. I thought it was more like you top up minutes in like a cell phone plan. So I was like, oh, maybe it's like something with like not like ad-free radio or something like that. So that's what I was thinking. And finally, when we got down to 100 miles, Eliz looked it up because she's like, it seems like we're getting it's getting close.
Down. Let's double check what
so
AdBlue
she looked it up and she's like, ooh, this might be more important than we think. Like the car might not actually start. So we called up our rental company and talked to them, and they said go into any of their locations and they can add AdBlue into the car for us. So we ended up taking it to one in Carlisle in the north of England because that's when we hit the 100-mile mark, and we're like, all right, 100 miles is still quite a few miles, so we'll go up there, we'll get the AdBlue topped up, and we'll be fine. We leave there, and they put like 5 liters in, so it's like a 17-liter tank. So they filled it up by about a third. That should have given us like 3,000 miles, something like that, like 3,000-ish miles of driving.
And mind you, this was the day before England goes into lockdown.
This is the day before England goes into lockdown. This is on Wednesday as we're driving up to Scotland. So we keep driving, and the numbers keep counting down. Like suddenly we're at 65 and then 55 and then 45 miles before the car won't stop. So we got to our place in Scotland in Moffat at Hartfell House, and we called up roadside assistance. And the long and the short of it became that in 45 miles you're going to hit 0. You're going to turn off your car, and then the car will not start. That is what's happening because it has a computer brain. And it's, even though there is AdBlue in there, the sensor is not picking it up. There's something wrong with it, and it's not an easy fix. So it needs to go into a Citroen station. They need to go and take out the tank and do all this other stuff. So ultimately, it became, we were like kind of stranded in Moffat, and we had to call up and have a truck come get us, which was actually not bad. I mean, the guy was nice. He put the car up onto his bed. And he was like, it wasn't really a tow truck so much as like a big, heavy goods vehicle that had like a giant like bed that like pulled the truck up onto.
And I've never ridden in a tow truck, so this was a tow truck to me.
Yeah. So we rode in the tow truck, and it was nice though because it had like, it was cordoned off where like it had like a plastic screen that separated us from the driver. So, we didn't have to worry about like
we were able to
circulating.
Distance,
we didn't have to worry about like his germs getting to us or anything like that, which is pretty nice. And yeah, so we did that for like, it was probably an hour and a half drive.
But thank goodness. Okay, so travel lesson learned here is that we had a UK SIM card, and we were able to make all of these local calls that I'm pretty sure we ended up probably calling 15 to 20 different numbers. In an effort to, be able to... We knew once we got to the hotel, we had about 45 miles left, but we were more than 45 miles away from anywhere that could, like any of the rental car locations. So if we drove our diesel car to those rental car locations, then that diesel car would not start again as soon as we arrived. So it was definitely a challenge of, like we wanted to do that, but we didn't want to screw over the people at the rental car place that they would need to like then have the Citroen dealership come to them. It's a whole thing. So anyway, so we had to make probably, I don't know, like 15 to 20 phone calls once we got to our hotel, and re-explain the situation each and every time.
Yeah, I mean, that was the most annoying part, was like we had to...
There was no master file. Like in the US, when you call a rental car company, that like they'll create a file for your RA your number. And that just didn't happen in the UK, and you have to kind of roll with the punches on that. That there's not going to be.
Or at least it didn't seem to be happening.
It definitely was
They
not
kept
happening.
asking, like, have you put AdBlue in? We're like, yes, you did actually.
You put AdBlue into our car in Carlisle.
You, the rental company in Carlisle, put AdBlue in the car.
Yeah.
So it was pretty annoying, and I will say, we want the cheapest option basically for a long-term car rental, which for you guys, I will say the name of it.
No, don't say it. Don't say it. It's an American company, but there's a lot of those, so don't say it.
If you read my lips, you just saw what it was. Yeah, so it was a little frustrating, and the biggest thing was like the customer service was definitely different here than I would have expected in the U.S. In the U.S., I would have expected them to like say, so sorry, let us figure this out for you, and then
we'll drive a car out to you so you don't get stranded.
Or things like that, right?
Yeah.
Instead it was like, oh, take a tow truck here, do this, do this, do this. Which is fine.
And it's like, call this person.
Which is fine. It's just a little bit different than what we would have expected in the U.S. And, what I would say is that, it's... Just understand what you're getting into, right? And like, whatever. It was fine. We survived.
Are fine.
Yeah.
We have a brand new. Okay, so the car that we rented was almost brand new when we got it.
It was a 2020.
It was a 2020 Citroen. And the new car that we got is the exact same car, just a different color. It's red, so I named it Clifford, the big red car. And it's, you just kind of, there's always those things that you have to deal with when you travel. And I'm sure all of you guys have those stories about something that goes wrong, and you just have to work towards a solution, wherever you are. But this is one of our stories. So of course it happened the day before the English lockdown. And so we were just trying to navigate our way through what that meant for where we could go in order to solve the problem. Because it definitely, because we were right on the border. We were right on the border of like Scotland and England, and it's like, can we go back to England to solve this issue? Do we have to do it in Scotland? And there's just extra layers in 2020 that maybe you don't have to deal with in other times.
No. So Mary Ellen says, do you have to plug in the diesel car there? Our district manager had a diesel car years ago, and I need to be sure he had room on parking lot side to plug car in. No.
There is no
Never
plug.
Heard of that. No.
Electric cars for sure.
Yeah.
But we don't, no, it's not the same with diesel. And we do have to, what's really interesting about the fuel prices with diesel is that we've seen certain places that have diesel and unleaded gasoline or petrol or whatever, be the same price here. And then there's other places where diesel is more, but not that much more. So yeah, it's different than in the U.S. in terms of pricing, I would say, because diesel's always so much more in the U.S.
I have no idea. I don't really pay attention to it too much in the
you.
U.S. So, Luis says, if you guys have been to London, what's your daily spending limit? When I go, I don't have to worry about a hotel, since my fiance is living there, but when it comes to food and transportation. So, Luis, what I would say is that...
So, from a budgeting perspective, what we end up doing...
We've been to London many times.
Derek's been with work, and then that changes everything. So, we're gonna talk about... Non-work. So I studied abroad in London, and my spending limit was, of course, a lot lower per day when I was doing that. I think I've been to London. I want to say 10 times since 2019. It's been a lot, and each time it's a little bit different because of the circumstances, and you just kind of have to push and pull on that. But if you're willing to not go out to nice dinners, your spending limit can be a lot less. So if you're staying at, your lodging cost is going to be a huge component to that. Your airfare cost is going to be a huge component to that. But when it comes to your day-to-day budget, then you can eat at a Pret or make your own meals and save a ton of money from that. So it all depends on beyond the food cost, what your activity costs are going to be at that point.
Yeah, so Louis, what I would say is that based on what you're saying, you're going to be staying with your fiance. I'm assuming that they have an apartment of some kind.
Well, sorry, can I just let me just finish. So your activity costs, if you're going to go to something like the Tower of London, which is my top favorite, tourist spot in London, that's I don't know what the 2020 price is. Sorry, because we haven't gone since 2018. But it's £20 per person plus. So you really, if you can identify what you're going to do each day, then you're able to understand what that pricing looks like in advance, and then give a little bit of a slush fund on top of that. So what I end up doing is creating categories, and I do create a spreadsheet because I'm definitely a nerd. And I'll say here's what my airfare cost is, my lodging cost, my activities cost, my estimated food cost, which I typically estimate at for London $50 a day per person, because it's if you're not staying at an Airbnb and you're eating out every time, that can easily be hit. If you're staying at, a place with a kitchen, regardless if it's an Airbnb or, family or friend or, significant other, you can get that down a lot. But, that's a variable cost, and then your activities is a variable cost. And you can kind of map that out from there. So it's not that we have a specific budget per day. It's that planning in advance is feasible when it comes to going to London.
All right, but what he's asking for is a basic runway, right? So if you go to one event, plus you eat maybe dinner out with your fiance, but you're doing breakfast and lunch, making a sandwich or whatever. So
dinner out though can be anything.
Yeah, but let me finish. So your dinner could range anywhere from, £10 if you're doing a fish and chips type place to, £35 per person, depending on what you're doing, right?
More.
It could be way more if you go to a Michelin-starred restaurant. But assuming that you're not, then I would say that, somewhere between the 10 to 35 pound limit is a pretty reasonable expectation for a dinner cost. Add into that, maybe £5 a day for a breakfast and a lunch if you're making your own food, maybe a little bit more, you can kind of get to those numbers. Going out and actually doing a thing doing the Tower of London, if you're not a member, that's £25 to go to the Tower of London. We highly recommend it. I think the Tower of London is really cool. It's a great experience. There is, if you plan to do other stuff, so if you want to go to Kensington Palace, if you want to go to a few of the other places like Hampton Court, you might want to get a membership because that allows you to actually go to all of those for one payment. And it's an annual payment. If you're going to go out there multiple times because your fiance is out there, maybe it's worth it, right? So for £55, you can go to any of those places unlimited amounts of times. So.
And Mark Smith right now, the pound to dollar ratio is it's about $1.30 to £1.
Yep. So there's different things that you can do there. Also, thinking about Oyster cards, and do you get like an unlimited pass? Do you get, it depends. So I would definitely look into it. I do think that taking the tube is quite nice. I think that's a great way to do it.
Purdue, if you're right, the TFL transportation costs. So sorry, I know I'm interrupting Derek and he's saying really important things, but I will say if you've already been to London and you've kept your Oyster card, you will save several pounds being able to bring that back. But beyond that, just look at the daily rates, and if you're there for longer, look at the weekly rates. If you're there for longer, look at the monthly rates. And then that's a very easy thing that you can do to budget in advance of what your total trip cost is going to look like.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes into it. It's a little hard to say. I would say that you should be able to get by, especially if you're being very budget-minded, you should be able to get by relatively fine. If you go get like doner kebab or something like it all depends on what your guys' tastes are for dinners and things like that. You could spend hundreds of pounds for dinner, or you could spend £10 for dinner.
The biggest variable, because it sounds like you're staying with your significant other, which is awesome, and you probably already know what your flight cost is going to look like. So the biggest variables beyond that are going to be food, and it's going to be activities. And transportation. If you're the kind of person that stays out late, which in London right now is not happening.
There's nothing to do right now.
But March, I can't speak for. Then you might end up taking taxis, and then you need to figure out, like, there's online calculators for how much a taxi from central London to wherever you're going costs. Like, let's say you're like the kind of person that goes home from bars at 2 a.m. You're not probably going to be taking the subway. I think the subway actually is not 24 hours and actually the tube. New Yorkers. I think the tube actually closes, and so you just have to be a little bit mindful of that. But yeah, so it's something that a plan in advance can really, really help. But my absolute number one thing is to put 10% of your travel budget into a slush fund. So, like, do not play loosey-goosey with, like, okay, I've budgeted everything out and this is what I have to spend. Like, there's likely going to be something that comes up. And you do not want to go into, like, a panic when that one thing does. Having that slush fund can really, really help. So I usually do about 10% of my full trip budget is in a slush fund, and if I get all of that 10% back at the end of the trip, good for me.
Yep. But real quick, Eric B.
Woo! Woo! Eric B.
Double wave.
Thank you so much, Eric,
Thanks,
for the
Eric
super
B.
chat. You're the best.
We really appreciate it.
And you don't even have a question for us. We love having questions in
the
there.
Memes
team. You're just the best.
Thank you.
Putting money towards the channel.
I will
and
say,
that's really,
Eric
really
B.
Sweet of you, so thank you.
Eric B. The other day, we did watch your video on the zoo in.
We did.
Is that in Baton Rouge?
Baton Rouge, yeah.
So very cool. It was like the Halloween zoo thing, and they had everything but the elephants. No elephants, I guess. So that was really cool, bud. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
You're
Eric,
too kind.
You're so supportive of this channel, and we're so grateful for you.
Thank you. The wave. Yes, the wave.
Yeah,
okay,
the
so
wave.
Mo says, I have a diesel...
For those of you guys who haven't seen this before, we do the wave and this, like, crazy arm thing every time we get a super chat.
It was a drunken decision a few times ago. But yes. So Mo says, I have a diesel 2-liter or 2L Audi A3 and never have to plug anything. Same goes for my other diesel cars. All right, so cool. I'm actually really happy to hear that from Mo because I was getting very nervous about having to plug in our car because I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's like, should we be plugging in our car?
Yeah, I'm like, do I plug it into something? Is there a cord? I don't even know.
So Lee Cal, we skipped your comment before. And it's about diesel cars. And Lee has been super... I just want to shout out Lee for a second, and Thomas Reiser.
Lee.
Both of them have been sending us all of these like breaking news things about the UK that are helpful for our trip.
Yep.
Throughout the entire time, and it's been really...
super helpful.
Yeah, just really helpful of us being able to make the decisions that we've made. So thank you to both of you guys. But Lee says... Diesel used to be a lot cheaper than petrol, so diesel cars were far more common here in the UK. This is not the case in the US. Less so now because of air pollution levels, plus it's more expensive nowadays. So the AdBlue situation that we encountered on our way here, AdBlue apparently reduces the air pollution levels in a diesel car to the limits that Europe has. You know, like the limit. That's like the function of AdBlue. So it makes sense that they wouldn't want your car to start once AdBlue is gone.
Yep. So that's the thing. So Mark Smith asks, is there a tube monthly pass? There is. It's actually quite expensive. I was just looking it up. It's like $100 and...
But there are certain categories of people who get a discount on it.
Yeah, so zones 1 and 2, if you want to include those in your pass, is £138.70. So it's quite expensive, but you know, if you're using it multiple times a day, that could well be worth it if you're there for a whole month.
Yeah, and okay, so say you're going and you're flying into Heathrow and you want to take the subway, the tube, all the way to central London. I would pay for the Heathrow Express at that point.
It's not that bad. It's like £15.
It's really not that expensive compared to the difference in cost that it goes from going from zone 1 and 2 all the way up to like a freedom of zones 1 through 5. You're definitely going to save money by doing Heathrow Express and then the zone 1 and 2 pass if you're going to be there for like a week. If you're only going to be there for a few days, you might want to look at the daily pass, for sure, or the weekly pass. But if you're there for a while, the monthly pass can really be a great, just like in New York City and in Chicago, the monthly passes will save you a lot of money if you're using it all the time, every day.
Fireworks.
The fireworks. When I lived in London in 2009, when I was studying abroad, I had a student discount on the monthly pass and was able to get my monthly pass delivered to my home in America before I even left for the UK. So if that's something that you qualify for, or I mean, there might be like senior discounts or something like that. That's something to look into, and there's a lot of online resources that kind of help with that. And you know, it's hard to say. Like, there's ways to strategize around that for sure. You want to show them what you just made? So Derek just pulled out. You guys can't smell it. I can. Derek just made duck cone feet because it was on sale at Marks and Spencer's when we went. And it's been cooking for hours. Have you guys ever had duck? Let us know in the comments. Let us know in the chat if you've had it. We've never made it before, and so this was like a huge undertaking of like researching what the recipes were.
It wasn't that big of an undertaking, but
we were trying to figure out, like, do we need to buy extra fat to cook it in, or is there a way to do it ourselves? And Derek figured it out because he's Chef Derek, so pretty cool. What school did I study at? I personally studied at City University in London in the Islington area. And then my program was also, you were required to intern in London too at a company. So I interned at Stella McCartney. Yeah, the wave, yes, Dad. Okay, so I think we've been jumping around. Purdue says the maximum transport for London TFL tube underground subway costs was zones 1 and 2. So for instance, if you stay your max will be along the lines of $10 per day. Yes, that is something that we also want you guys to pay attention to for sure. So I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Mark Smith, pint of beer now. Yeah, I'm on my second pint right now. Actually, it's...
And for anybody who's joined later, I'm drinking white wine.
Give Remembrance.
We just have only champagne flutes in this Airbnb in Fort William, Scotland. So this is how we drink wine here.
Yep. So Purdue says, my understanding is in COVID might have changed this, but that they opened the tube at night lines last year, and those might have been closed this year, but we've been out till midnight or just past.
Yeah, when I was 21 studying abroad, I think they closed at midnight. So, but I did hear something about.
Yeah, Nicole says there's a night tube on Fridays and Saturdays.
And I think only certain lines maybe are the night tube too. But I don't want to be spreading rumors. So if you know for certain, please let us know in the chat.
Well, that was the other thing that we always had an issue with is that if you had an early morning flight, you had to understand what time the tube opened, because it might not open until it'd be too late for you to go catch your flight. So you needed to understand that, because then you might have to take a taxi, and then that might also impact what flights you take, because that could add a significant cost on top of your travel costs if you're not taking a tube, right?
Caveating right now, most of the flights that are flying from London to the U.S. right now happen after 11 a.m. So that's not quite an issue, because I believe the tube starts up at 5:30 a.m. at least. This is my memory from what happened when we were flying home from London 2 years ago. So if it starts at 5:30 a.m., you're 100% going to make your 11 a.m. flight. However, if you months from now things totally change and there's a lot more flights between the U.S. and Europe, you're going to want to plan out, if you're planning on taking the tube from central London to Heathrow, then you're going to need that time. It takes, if you're taking if you're taking the Heathrow Express, it's like 15 minutes. But you still have that buffer time of you have to take your cab or your tube to Paddington Station. Then there's that time at Paddington Station that you have to figure out where you're going, and it's a pretty big station, and get on the train. So you do want to put maybe an extra hour of getting from your hotel to Paddington Station in there. So you really need to think about what that transportation looks like and if you can make it work.
Yep. So Nicole is saying that the night tube is currently suspended.
Okay.
Interesting. All right, so Mo is saying to Mary Ellen that I was surprised to see diesel used for cars other than trucks when I moved to the UK. I only had petrol back in Kuwait, and a liter of about 98 octane was 20 cents. Wow. Dang.
Okay,
a lot more pounds here, a lot more money here.
That's a laughable number even for the U.S. Yeah. That's awesome and very affordable.
That's great.
But yeah, I know the UK has a very, very high petrol cost, whether it's diesel or unleaded gasoline.
Yeah, so Paul Tipton says a few years ago the UK government was encouraging people to get diesel cars and reducing the prices. Then they discovered it was causing more pollution. Newer diesel vehicles have Euro 6 engines to cut pollution, which requires AdBlue additive. Yes. And Mo is saying, and with the Volkswagen Dieselgate, it's affected the market, and there is a big push towards electric now, which is true. So Dieselgate was a big thing around Volkswagen, VW.
Derek's way more informative about cars than me, so I'm going to let him talk, and I'll be right back.
Volkswagen. So what they did was they were basically lying about their emission standards, and it was a massive scandal, billions of dollars, and so that's a major issue right now. It has really helped towards the decline of diesel in Europe and elsewhere. Like in the U.S., there's still, they're trading in diesel trucks for hybrid, versions in New York and whatnot that are using money from the Volkswagen, settlements and stuff to help offset those costs for electric cars and electric fleets, which is pretty interesting. But yeah. So she already talked about where she studied. Mark is saying, have had duck terrine confit as a side, but not much of it. It's yummy. It's one of our favorite things to get when we're in France. We love getting duck confit and escargot. Those are like escargot. It's another way to eat butter, basically. It's delicious. So excited for that. Mo is telling Paul Tipton that Mercedes was also caught cheating. So that's interesting. Chris Frank. Hey, Chris. Welcome to the live stream. Sorry that the table moves so much. It's a wobbly table. But yeah, Chris is saying, I used the Oyster card in London and there was a daily cap. Yeah, so you only get charged so much, which is good. But yeah, you want to know that, and you figure that into your upper limits of how much you're spending, right? So Vega Bonnie says duck confit is awesome, or duck confit. I think the T might be silent. Best I ever had was in Czech Republic. Oh, that's interesting. My favorite duck confit is in Paris. There's a place that we like there called Les Couchons, which is a.
They don't always
have duck confit.
It's so sad.
But I do like that place. It's special to us. We went there when we were in college, and we tend to go back every time we're in Paris together, which is always fun.
They often have duck confit there, and it's right by the Pantheon, but not always. And so every time we've gone that they don't have it, we're like, what do we order?
What else do you have? If they didn't have escargot, I would just leave. I'd be like, I'm done. Never again. But they usually have that. So
we like escargot. I know it's definitely
a vessel for butter.
It's a different type of thing than a lot of Americans are used to. But we are into it.
Just want to eat it right now. Mark Smith says, Scotch and wine flutes too. We have no Scotch right now. We've never done a Scotch tour. We've been to Scotland multiple times now. Her fault.
I've done a Scotch tour.
She's evil.
The very first time I went to Scotland was when I studied abroad in London, and we did a weekend trip to Scotland with like all of the people in my study abroad program, and one of those things involved a distillery tour. I am so not a whiskey drinker, despite my Scottish heritage, and it's just one of those things that it's like I don't really want to go, but this trip, last trip I promised Derek we were going to go, and it just didn't work out. And so this trip, we must go because Derek will not let me live it down because somehow it's my fault.
Same thing with brewery tours. She's been to brewery tours without me, but she won't go with me.
And I don't drink beer.
So
I'm the worst.
I'm gonna just abandon her in Scotland, guys. I'm just gonna take the car and go do my own thing.
Mind you, guys, we've been together since 2006, so somehow I've maneuvered my way into breweries and whiskey distilleries just by being with Derek at the time.
I'm very upset with her. Comment below if you agree.
No, don't. I'm
Team Derek.
I'm not actively keeping you from them.
Team Derek or Team Eliz? No, I'm just kidding.
Gosh, stop. Don't,
love you.
Please don't. Nobody write that. Because it's always going to be Team Derek.
Okay, so Purdue says early flights, our taxi to London was $100. Yeah, that sounds about right. It's pretty expensive. And Mark Smith...
Wait, taxi...
to London for an early morning flight.
Yeah.
Yep, from the city. So Mark is saying he's had rental car return problems in LA before. I assume you mean Los Angeles, not Louisiana. But yeah, so car rental returns can be a little bit difficult sometimes.
We've had such weird things with rental cars where one time we were trying to get back to the rental car company, and Google Maps was trying to steer us down a road that was completely closed. And we were like, no. This road is literally a gravel pit surrounded by cones. We cannot go this way. And we were trying to get it to reroute, and it wouldn't reroute us. Yeah. And so we ended up being a little bit late to return. Thankfully they were very lenient about it, but we were stressed, and we had to get to our flight.
Purdue says team togetherness.
Yeah, team togetherness. Thank you, Purdue.
So Mo is, well, first of all, Catherine Hegarty. Welcome, Catherine. Hello.
Catherine's on. Hi, welcome. She's had so many great comments on our videos lately.
So Mo says, for diesel engines, I suppose it depends on your engine oil type as well. Mine is SAE 5W-30, and it's synthetic.
If that's the case, I had no idea. Does it depend on your engine oil type? We don't know.
Purdue.
If anybody knows what a Citroen
C5
Aircross engine oil is, then you guys can help us out.
So Purdue says, left field, any places you've come across with a distinct aroma or smell?
Not in the UK. Like, so,
I remember thinking that Vancouver smelled beautiful.
Yeah. When we left the airport in Vancouver, we were like, what is that heavenly aroma? And it was just like nature.
And it was nature.
Yeah, and then, so in Chicago, if you're in downtown Chicago and staying there, and all of a sudden you kind of think that you're smelling like this weird, like kind of sweet chocolatey smell, like not like an appetizing. It's not appetizing, but like not like a I'm smelling chocolate that I want to eat smell. It's just kind of like, what is that chocolate smell? That actually is a chocolate factory that is in River North in Chicago. And so that's an interesting one where you're like, only on certain days of the year you'll smell it, and then it's powerful on those days.
It's one of those things where if you don't know that it's chocolate, you're concerned.
Yeah, you're like, what am I smelling? But it's chocolate. There's a chocolate factory.
Yeah, because you're like, am I smelling sewage? I don't know. But it is chocolate.
It's factory chocolate.
Because otherwise you're like, should I feel wrong that I'm hungry now?
Yeah.
I don't know.
What else has had a smell? We've definitely
New York
smells.
On Garbage Day.
Yeah, New York, like
Garbage Day in New York, definitely.
Certain blocks have smells.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if you're asking about UK in specifics.
No, I haven't come across, as far as I know, any specific smells in the UK. So, okay, guys, now I am drinking Sky Red, which is from the Isle of Skye. It's a red ale.
You're kidding. Sorry.
For those who couldn't follow
I feel like I had to put into words what everybody was thinking.
Context clues.
Oh my gosh, Lee, thank you. We've got a wave going up. All right. Woo!
Yeah,
Wait, I messed it up. There we go. Thank you, Lee, so much. Okay, Derek's doing it twice.
Yeah, do it.
All right, Lee says, thanks for the shout out. Very kind, no need. In case you're wondering, it's not me from the profile picture. It's my dog, Jake. I do befriend a lot of dogs, so
if there was a dog talking to us, that'd be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
But yes.
If dogs learn keyboarding,
and after that, Ether dog. Hey
guys, just joined. I will have to catch the return. IU beat Michigan yesterday. Booyah.
Oh my God, that was amazing.
IU's doing really well.
They're undefeated.
So for those folks who don't know me and Derek's background, we went to Indiana University.
That's where we met.
Both of us, and we met at freshman orientation, and we started dating during welcome week. So we
I
have
had
been together
sick game as a freshman
since we were 18 years old. But yes, thank you, Lee. You're the best. Esther Dog, yes. She's very much an IU fan as well. Purdue.
Sorry about you.
Indiana.
Oaken Bucket.
Mo says the owner's manual, check the glove box, should tell you what engine oil is needed. Great point. We actually don't have an owner's manual. We have been checking the glove box for that, and it's not in there. Which maybe it's like hiding somewhere.
Maybe. I don't know.
I keep
it also has
opening
no...
it.
Also, they didn't give us any spare tire.
Yeah, they don't have a spare tire.
There's no spare tire, and that's kind of like... Really? Like, what happens if we break down? It makes me a little bit nervous about the NC500, actually, in all honesty. But, screw it, we're doing it.
We got this.
We got this.
I wonder
We'll
if
see.
Nessie's on lockdown. Paul Tipton, hey, how's it going?
Paw.
Nessie,
We're gonna go to Loch Ness because we're gonna be driving between here to Inverness, and you go right by Loch Ness.
Like Fort Augustine, right?
Fort Augustine is like right there, so you go past Fort Augustine, you keep going up. Loch Ness is quite long, but we plan to stay. So, all right, so we have this like time period, right, between here and Sunday, which we definitely want to be in the city for Sunday, so we can be here for you guys for the live stream. So we plan to be in Inverness that night, and we're thinking that we're just going to spend all 4 nights in Inverness, which gives us plenty of opportunity actually to go. I like Inverness. When we went to Inverness 2 years ago, I loved it. I thought it was great. We saw like rainbows. It was awesome.
Beautiful. Just the food situation is a little bit more challenging than other places in the UK because they just seem to have fewer restaurants. Maybe I'm off. It really feels that way.
Yeah. So we're I'm excited to get to Inverness, and from there we're gonna do day trips to like see like Uquart Castle and like Loch Ness and all that kind of stuff. So that'll be a lot of fun.
And Mark Smith says we expect a movie of Loch Ness. So last time we were in Scotland in 2018, we drove past, what is it called? Uquart Castle.
Yeah.
But we didn't get to go in, and I feel like this time, like we have no excuse.
Yeah.
Is it part of
I don't know.
Any of the memberships that we're doing? We have
so right now we have the only thing in Scotland that we have is we have the National Trust of Scotland membership. So that's mainly doing like hikes and stuff. So like we get like free parking at a lot of places.
And our Airbnb host printed out our
very nice of her. Actually.
So our Airbnb host is like the bomb, and we were like, hey, is there a place in Fort William that we can go print out our parking pass? She's like, I can just do that for you. And she slipped it under our door. Not only did she slip it under our door as like a printout, but she laminated it.
It's not really laminated. She put it into a sleeve. But
Still.
yes, it's very nice. And we're very happy for that, which is really nice. So we've got that now, so we can actually go take advantage of our parking and stuff. So like when we, for instance, the first time we actually utilized it was we went to Glenfinnan to do the viaduct, and right by the Glenfinnan viaduct area, there's National Trust of Scotland parking area for the Glenfinnan monument. So Glenfinnan's actually, a historically significant place because that's where Bonnie Prince Charlie raised the standard for the Jacobites. And kind of called the Highlanders together to like form his army to go try to put his father, the old pretender, on the throne.
1 minute history. Go. Who's Bonnie Prince Charlie?
Bonnie Prince Charlie was the son of the ousted King of England, basically, who was a Catholic, and because of that, and there was something happened in Parliament where they basically made it where the King of England can't be Catholic. And so they got disenfranchised. He put up his court in Rome. His son, Charles, Bonnie Prince Charlie, thought it was his destiny to put his father back on the throne and thought that he would do that through the Highlands. So he raised the standards there, raised up all the Highlands.
The standard is like a flag, basically.
A flag, whatever. And all the clansmen rose up in, not all of them, but he rose up quite a few and took them to... He was actually pretty successful in the Highlands, but then he ended up turning back from invading England. I think he turned back about 100 miles north of England, or of London, without continuing on. And then they fought a battle at Culloden, and that's where like 1,500 or 15,000 Scotsmen died. And that kind of started a process of kind of whittling down the clan way of life within Scotland, and people in Scotsmen weren't able to like bear arms, swords, etc. So there's like a whole tartans. Gaelic was basically almost outlawed. It was looked down upon as a language of rebels and rabble rousers. So they there's a lot of things that happened around Scottish culture around that time that was really bad because of the Jacobite uprising. But it happened down in Glenfinnan, so there's a monument down there right on Loch Shiel that we went to, and unfortunately right now because of COVID, you're not able to go up to the top of it, which I guess gives you a really nice view over the loch and everything. But we did go down there and spend some time, did like the nature walk and everything. It was very nice.
Yeah. Bye, Ronnie, by the way. Thanks for joining. Really fun to have you each week. Yeah, so we really enjoyed going to Glenfinnan. We went last time we were here and wanted to go back. And as we mentioned earlier on this live stream, we were able to also do the Glenfinnan Viaduct and have the Jacobite steam train go across, which was its final day, which we wouldn't have been able to do if we hadn't left England early, unplanned in the way that we did it.
Yep. So, Mark Smith, have you seen the ad with the talking pug?
No. But we've also basically only been watching BBC News, which doesn't have commercials. So I don't know if maybe that's on other channels here in the UK that we haven't been watching.
Purdue.
But Mark Smith also says to try the door or the engine compartment. Yeah, I'm sure there's somewhere like an owner's manual, for sure. We haven't tracked it down.
So Purdue is saying this is the part of the discussion where I take a potty break, IU. Haha. There we go. So Nicole is saying we should have an aerosol can in the boot to spray into the tire if we get a puncture.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So we'll have to check for that.
That's not a
I don't remember seeing that.
I don't think.
Well, they have that kind of stuff. It helps seal it.
Do you think it would be underneath the cover
maybe
thing? I don't remember seeing an aerosol can because I lifted it up to see if there's a tire.
Wait, what?
Too.
Alex Trebek passed away today? Nick P, no.
Nick, why did you join and then say that?
Oh no, now I need to go check my news app.
Oh, no.
Sean Connery, now
and
Alex Trebek.
Hi, Nick. That's really sad. I'm upset about that.
All right, it's not on BBC. Maybe it's on Wall Street.
Yeah, maybe it'd be on a U.S. news outlet. That's such a bummer.
Yeah, that's a major bummer.
Jeopardy announced it about a half hour ago, he says.
Oh, that's sad. All right, well, R.I.P. Alex Trebek.
Yeah.
Did a great job for all those years.
And, the SNL of Alex Trebek and Sean Connery.
It is so good. So good.
Ooh, this is a rough week.
All right, so Eric B is saying, I'm so glad you all decided to stay in Scotland instead of coming home. So, there we go.
We are too, so far.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of hiking and pretty scenery here, and we love the Highlands. We've been here before, so not a lot that we've done so far has been new, but it's definitely going to be new for us once we go to NC 500.
Yeah.
And we're excited.
All right, so Catherine is talking about the Greyfriars Bobby, which is the dog. There's statues of him in Edinburgh and whatnot. So yeah, we've definitely checked him out and stuff. So that's
Chris Frank, welcome. And
what
he
up, Chris?
says something that explains a lot, and it's that many rental companies remove the owner's manual.
Interesting. Chris was on earlier when you weren't here.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure that's probably what happened because I've opened the glove compartment a lot, and I don't think there's anything in there.
All right, so Nick B is saying, are you stuck in Scotland until you come back to America? Maybe not, because Northern Ireland and Wales should be coming out of their lockdowns or heavier restrictions between now and December 2nd, which means that we might be able to go to Northern Ireland and Wales after Scotland. So we'll have to see. We'll have to see what the routes look like and if we can actually make it. But that would be ideal if we could do that.
Yeah.
So, but that said, we only have a month left. We're actually one day under a month.
Yeah,
Yesterday was a month.
We have 29 days left. So we're leaving here on December 7th according to our booked tickets. So.
Yeah. So we shall see.
Paul Tipton says, I saw on Facebook this morning from an old friend from Boston. Yes, is true. We are not necessarily talking about.
You can leave that for now. It's so we don't want to get into politics or anything like that, but currently, yes, the Associated Press is calling it for Biden.
The American election.
The American election.
But we're not talking about politics on this.
Yep.
We just really don't want to. We said this kind of at the beginning, and I know it's been 2 hours now. Actually, exactly 2 hours. So thanks to everybody who stayed on for that long. We just really don't want to talk about politics on this channel because I know that there's a lot of different opinions that can exist from lots of different people, and it's just not where we want to go. Derek's looking at our duck confit again. It definitely smells good. Hopefully it tastes good too. That'll be what we eat for dinner.
And even if it doesn't, she'll never tell you. I hope.
Yeah, Jeopardy will never be the same. Much like when Bob Barker retired and yeah, it's Drew Carey that took over. I'm curious to see where Jeopardy goes from here. That's for sure. I'm upset. That's definitely a sad news. Feels strange. It's already November. I'll be 29 a week from tomorrow. Last 20's birthday. Yes. I remember when Derek and I turned 29 because we're less than 2 months apart. And there's this one New Girl episode where Schmidt turns 29 and he does like a really funny like 29. So you should watch that before your birthday for sure. I think it's within the first season. Travel Adventures with Eric B says politics are upsetting. Yeah. So we're just trying to do what we can to stay informed and keep up to date about what affects our travel here. Laura Sims says, "Don't worry, Nick P. 30th birthday is more traumatic." Yeah. I turned 30 like right after we moved to Chicago, so I didn't really have a big 30th birthday. Bye, Bonnie. Thank you so much for joining. It was super fun to have you on. And so if anybody else has like travel Q&A questions about the UK, we answered a couple about London earlier that I'm happy to answer more of. But any other type of travel, we've done a lot. We've been a lot in Western Europe. We've been to China. Derek's been to Singapore and Japan. We've been to South America, Mexico, and all over the U.S. and Canada. So we're here to help if anybody has more questions for us. And just want to make sure that we're answering and talking about what everybody here is passionate about, which is travel. Yeah, but I mean, we've certainly... Okay, so Mo says in his car, the extra tire jack is under the boot liner. The boot is like what we Americans call the trunk. The rental company probably removed it. Yeah, probably. It seems like they removed a lot of things because when we were talking, we were talking to the rental car like manager, and he was like, "Yeah, we don't really put spare tires in our cars anymore." Purdue says last chat someone mentioned notes, which currency notes are different in Scotland. Any info on that for the Bank of Scotland? So the biggest difference is that in the UK you're going to see the Queen on all of the banknotes, the actual paper money, and in Scotland you'll see different faces of different Scottish people like in history. We have not taken out any money since we've gotten here. Since we got here, we haven't needed to because just like in the U.S., cash and coins have been very I don't want to say frowned. Yeah, it's not frowned. It's just it's like...
No, I mean a lot of times you go to a place and it says contactless preferred or not accepting cash. In quite a few places actually right now. So we actually took out cash when we first got here and we haven't ran through it yet. Now the place where this becomes an issue is with parking because a lot of, not a lot, but some places only take coins. And that can be an issue if you're not using a lot of cash, you don't have a lot of coins.
What else only takes coins? Parking and bathrooms.
Now, a number of parking places, they're ran by companies that have, apps and stuff like, Me Permit or whatever. There's a bunch of them out there actually. I've downloaded like 4 of them at this point. And you can pay using like your credit card that way, which is nice. But if you get to a place that has like no service and then only takes coins, it can be a major hassle where you have to go find a place that'll accept cash so they can give you back your change and whatever. So that's definitely a thing.
Okay, so I'm going to answer all the other questions that have come in since then, but because this is on topic, Purdue asks bathrooms, public toilets free or cost that you've seen. So
we've seen a mix.
We've been at public parking areas that are like that you pay to park, usually it seems like for the most part places have been free to use the bathroom. You kind of like pay for that as part of your parking cost. The only exception that we found was in St. Ives. Wait, no, it was in Cornwall. Where were we that I had to pay? It was
Cornwall.
It was the place that Doc Martens filmed.
St. Ives.
On top of paying for parking, we had to pay for. Was it St. Ives?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it was not St. Ives. St. Ives was when
Port Isaac.
Yes, Port Isaac. Thank you. Port Isaac in Cornwall was the place that we had to pay for using the restroom on top of paying for parking. Other places, like when we've gone to, say, a train station in the past, we haven't been to too many on this trip because we've had the rental car and stuff like that. But like train stations, you might have to pay 20p to 50p, or like 20 pence to 50 pence in order to use those bathrooms. And there's no like, hey, here's a £1, can you give me change for this? Like you have to have exact change. So that's been really challenging.
Yeah, because they won't give change. So if it costs 20p and you put a £1 note, like a £1 coin in, you don't get anything back.
Yeah,
so
like
it's
you're
kind of
paying
like
£1 to go to the restroom instead of 20p.
Which is not great. And so we tend to hold it if we have to. Find
or
another
like
place.
Derek mentioned this on previous live streams, but we have this rule of like if we're at lunch or at
see a toilet, use a toilet.
See a toilet, use a toilet. And we, it's not the most glamorous thing to say, but because the word toilet is on the wall, that's why we say it that way instead of like see a restroom, use a restroom.
A bathroom.
But it's a really good rule to have in the UK for sure.
Yeah, because you don't want to pay for it. Now, I will say, like, occasionally you drink a beer, you break the seal, and that's not a good thing. But, whatever.
I don't drink beer.
Let's not talk about potty humor, I guess.
No, it's not.
So, Mark is saying that they are actually asking for coins in the U.S. Yeah, there's a coin shortage right now because a lot of places that have typically been places that have a lot of coins, like fast food, etc., have seen a lot less people coming in. So there's a lot less in circulation because of that. So Mark Walters. Hello, Walters
Hi,
World.
Walters
What's
World.
up?
Thank you for joining.
Hello. So howdy for William Livers.
See a toilet, use a toilet is Kathy Walters' motto too. Love it.
Nice. So Mark is saying howdy from William? I don't know.
Fort William
Lovers?
Lovers.
I don't know. Just got through all the commercials for you, none were political ads, which was weird to see. There we go.
End of the campaigns.
Yay, it's over. Purdue bathroom. Okay, no, we already saw that. Mo is saying, hello, Mark. Hope you and the fam are well.
Nick P says, I find it weird that in Europe they spell tire with a Y, and in the U.S. they spell tire with an I. Yeah, it does look funny, doesn't it?
Yeah, well, because tire with a Y is also how you'd spell the ancient city in the Near East that Alexander the Great sacked. Tire.
Nailed it.
Nerd alert.
I can't dispute. Lori Sims is asking you a question about Singapore. I don't know if you have a good answer for this.
Sorry, what?
I highlighted it.
Lori Sims, that means to travel. Do you have any vlog sites to recommend for Singapore? My son wants to teach English there.
So we actually have a friend who teaches at a
American
school in Singapore, and loves it. But he doesn't have like a YouTube channel.
He's a cool dude.
Yeah.
No, I don't have any good YouTube channels for Singapore. I've been there. It's great. It's a phenomenal place. I think it's great. I think it's probably the easiest place for a Westerner who speaks English to go to in Asia. They speak English. It's the national language of Singapore is English. At one point in time, they were an English colony. There's a lot of history there. It's like right on the equator. It's very hot all year round. So you kind of know what you're getting when you go there. The food is awesome because it's
Derek had business
really cool
meetings
mixture.
in Singapore in late July last year, and we had to go like last minute because he found out he was going very, very last minute. We had to go get him like short sleeve button down shirts for his business meetings because it was going to be
so hot.
So hot.
So hot. And but it's good because like the food there is really good. It's like a mixture of like Chinese, Malaysian, Indian food. It's really good. I highly recommend it. They have a really nice food scene. But no, I don't have any good ones. I will say though, best movie to watch before you go, Crazy Rich Asians. Takes place in Singapore. It's pretty cool.
But
I definitely watched that on my plane right out there.
Because when you went, it was so last minute that you didn't have any chance of like researching too much in advance. All we did was reach out to our friends who had just moved there. Like literally a month before, and figured out what they recommended.
So Purdue says Citroen site specifies the C5 Aircross spare tire as spare wheel Gillette, whatever that means. Galette? Cookie pancake? Google Galette, the very small spare wheel tire. I don't know. All right, so Klaus is saying payment toilets are usually cleaner, and I prefer them. Yeah, that's probably true.
And Paul asked if public toilets. He said he was wondering if public toilets were open or closed during lockdown. We've seen both scenarios, but mostly it's been open, which has been really helpful.
Like when we went to Land's End, we parked in like a town over, so we would then walk to Land's End in Cornwall. Which, if you're interested in the whole end-to-end thing, that's like the southwesternmost point of England, basically, of mainland England. And you start down there, and then you work your way up to John O'Groats, which is the northeast-most part of Britain, up in Scotland. But down in Land's End, what you do is you it's all about walking along the coast and stuff like that. So we went to a place where we could do that, and there are two council operated, and this is the case in a lot of England, where it's the city council or the county council that runs these parking lots. And there's two in that town that we went to, and one of them had their bathrooms open, the other one did not. So we ended up having to like walk all the way to the other one, use that bathroom, and then go and do our walk.
It was so unfortunate.
It was just annoying.
We had to walk away from where we were going and then walk back. Yeah. But at least by the time we got there, it was free. We didn't have to pay money for it or anything. So.
Mark Walters, occasionally, but only occasionally, one drinks a beer. Yeah, that's a huge issue, man. I drink a beer and then I gotta use every toilet. It's not good.
Stop talking about it. Okay.
Purdue, the toilets in Paris, those standalones, huge lines for both male and female. They must like those. Nice.
We haven't run into too many lines because there's been so many fewer tourists, I think, right now.
Oh yeah, there's not a lot of them.
Queues, if you will. Mark Smith already getting emails for
the Senate the Senate runoff in Georgia. Yeah. Klaus says I booked a trip to Singapore in the spring, but it was canceled due to COVID. Yeah. Again, Singapore is awesome. Highly recommended. Great place. Phenomenal. I wish
I'm gonna go open the window because I feel like it's smoky in here from the.
I've got a window open already.
Okay, I'm gonna go open this one.
I'll open this one too. So highly recommend it. Honestly, if we could have gone to Asia for this like 3-month period, I think I would have recommended us going to Asia instead of the UK. Love the UK, special place in our heart, very nice. But there are very few times when you can go to Asia for a very significant amount of time. That would have been really cool.
Yeah, we were kind of talking about going to Singapore in 2020 because Derek got to go by himself for work, and then our friends these are the same friends that we stayed with when we went to
Singapore. Or, sorry, Shanghai.
Shanghai and China, and they moved from Shanghai to Singapore.
Yep.
And so I really want to go visit them.
Yeah, no, totally. That'd be a lot of fun. Travel Adventures with Eric B. I've seen lots of your YouTube videos on Singapore from... Alright, so, sorry. I've seen lots of good YouTube videos on Singapore from several people. Okay. Yeah, I'm sure there's some phenomenal ones out there.
Yeah, I just don't know if anybody's, like, focused. Yeah, we haven't done enough research.
No, I'm sure there's a ton of them.
I'm sure there's ones that focus on.
Purdue says that Singapore looks interesting, that they have a Universal Studios there.
Cool.
Very cool. I did not know that.
I also understand that Singapore is pretty expensive too, right? So like when it comes to budgeting, you have to figure out what you want to do and what your food costs.
I mean, it's definitely more expensive than if you went to like Hong Kong or a number of other places, like the Philippines or something like that. Yeah, it can be definitely expensive. What's really cool about it though is that you can get like Peking duck, you can get like Din Tai Fung. There's a bunch of different types of foods that you can get, and if you like food and that's like a big part of like experiencing a culture, I do think that Singapore is pretty awesome.
And if Laurie Sims' son wants to teach there, I'm sure they've figured out what the right, wage should be in order to make it work.
Yeah.
Catherine says, if you go to Northern Ireland, Belfast, parking in the city is very expensive. No parking at hotels in the city. Have to use parking lots. Otherwise, leave the car at your Airbnb.
Interesting.
We have not looked into this enough, and Mo, I'm sorry to say that in front of you. But,
well, it's an issue because we just don't know if we're going to be able to make it. Right? Yeah.
So we just haven't allowed ourselves to dive in as far as we need to for that. So that's a really, really good heads up. Because we want to go to Northern Ireland. We just don't know if we're going to be able to make it there. Lee Cal says, it is probably a temporary spare wheel. It could actually be under the car itself. So we asked our, Derek's about to eat chips, and it's like incredibly loud. Stop! They don't have a spare wheel for us at all. We asked, and they don't have that. Use public transportation. Oh, thank you. Near Old Gas Works, 8 pounds a day. So I'm assuming that's talking about Belfast.
Interesting.
As well. So
kettle chips, yummy.
What did you enjoy when you went to Singapore? That's my question. Because I didn't get to go to Singapore, and I'm curious about more of your Singapore experiences too.
Food was good. Enjoyed the food. There's some cool like colonial buildings from when it was a British place, a British colony. And otherwise, it was just kind of an interesting place to go do business. I thought that was fun. But
were the people that you had meetings with from Singapore?
Largely no.
Yeah, it's a pretty international place, right?
Yeah. But actually, like a buddy of mine who I used to work with in New York, Singaporean, so like met up with him in Singapore because he's back there now working, and that was a good time. It was a lot of fun, a lot of good drinks, a lot of good.
You had a lot of good cocktails. You were raving about the cocktails there.
Cocktails are good. The Singapore Sling is the like go-to cocktail in Singapore. It's very fruity. It's like a very tropical type of thing.
Purdue's asking what microphone we're using. I'll just show it to you guys. Yeah, right before we left for this trip, I bought a Rode Professional microphone. It's the Pro Plus. It's attached to our Joby here. So this is the microphone we have. Hopefully it works, and you guys can hear us. Hopefully you can't hear it too well, and you don't hear us chomping on these chips too hard, or crisps, if you will.
I do like that Paul Tipton. Derek with the smallest crisp he could find.
Paul Tipton! Oh my gosh, we have another super chat. Thank you. It's time for a tsunami wave. Heck yeah. Woo! Thank you, Paul. Derek's Yeah, it was time for a tsunami wave, wasn't it? Thank you, Paul, so
Thanks,
much.
Paul. I needed to do squats, you know? It's like...
Yeah. So, for those of you guys who are still on, first of all, thank you. I know we've been on for an hour and 20 minutes now, and it's really awesome to have all these folks come back week after week. We are putting out another video tomorrow that kind of gives a little bit more detail about our rationale for why we ended up staying in the UK and the 3 different options that we pursued when the news broke that England was going into a lockdown. So, that video is, you know, in the hopper.
We filmed it today.
Yeah, we filmed it today, but it's coming tomorrow because we didn't want to confuse folks with the live stream and stuff like that. And then we have Travel Tip Tuesday coming up on Tuesday as well. So there's a lot of videos on this channel that are going to be released. This one and then 2 subsequent ones coming up. So hopefully you guys watch that and are enjoying the content on this channel. We are working through a lot, like every single day for the most part that we go out and about, we're filming travel vlogs and travel videos. But those take a lot longer to edit, as Mark is kind of like, implying with, he's editing 3 weeks of videos right now while listening to this. It's a lot of time commitment.
Yeah.
And we're working towards being able to balance that while still filming as much as we can. We've been blessed with pretty good weather.
Yeah.
And, we're not complaining, but it also
we'd have a lot more
video.
Yeah. We'd have a lot more videos out if we had worse weather. Yeah. So it's like a pro and a con. So I will say December, once we get back to the U.S., will be kind of like the month of editing, I feel. I feel like it's going to be like 40 hours a week of just like editing video, primarily.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of my time. Derek's
I'm just going to hang out.
Cheerleading.
Yeah. You can do it.
Good Wi-Fi is a must for editing too. You know what's funny about that is good Wi-Fi is a must for uploading the video to YouTube. And that's another thing that, like, sometimes with the Travel Tip Tuesdays, because I don't prioritize us staying at places that have good Wi-Fi for the Tuesday uploads, just because
they're shorter.
It's shorter. It takes a lot less upload, like speeds and stuff that are needed for like the live streams. Like Sundays is when we're in places that we prioritize having good Wi-Fi. Tuesdays, there's sometimes when those like 2 to 3 minute videos take 2 hours to upload to YouTube.
Which is fine because we can set it to upload, we can leave, go do something, come back, and it's done, right? So like that's the beauty of that, right? So we're not as freaked out about it.
Yeah, but we are very mindful of making sure that we stick on those schedules for Sundays. So we'll see you guys next Sunday.
In Inverness.
When we're hopefully in Inverness. We haven't booked it yet, but hopefully in Inverness. And then Tuesday we'll have a Travel Tip Tuesday out for you guys. I filmed this one in Glenfinnan, so that'll be a fun one. Yeah,
so Mary Ellen is saying, better that you guys can experience as much as possible over there.
Yeah.
That's kind of how we feel about it.
That's what we're trying to justify to ourselves.
It's a balance. It really is a balance.
Because I feel guilty. Like, I want to give you guys travel vlogs because I know that that's what everybody's really itching for, especially in 2020.
Yeah.
And they're coming. They're just, it's a balance.
Yeah.
Team NC500, yeah.
Yeah, so we plan to do that, and that's gonna be a lot of fun. I'm super stoked to say it. Very very excited. But in the meantime, Catherine Hegarty, geez, that's a big mic. Yes, hear you quite well. So happy that you decided to stay in the UK. I enjoy your vlogs and Sunday live streams.
Thanks, excellent. Catherine. That's so sweet of you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. I don't feel guilty. Thank you.
So we do have, quite a bit still going on. We have just under a month left in the UK. And I think that, right now the big plan is a week to 10 days up in the North Coast 500. We still have the better part of a week left here still, 3 to 4 days or so. And then maybe another week in Skye, up in like Port Ree or something like that. So we have probably about most of actually our time left here kind of called for, but if we can make it over to Northern Ireland, we would definitely do that.
Oh, Catherine, we haven't tried the barbecue hula hoop crisps yet. I'm kind of a purist when it comes to chips. I like potato chips.
She likes the kettle ones.
I like, but I also just like non-flavored, the potato flavor.
Salted. She likes the salted ones.
Did the Wingstop come with it? It did not. I paid, I think it was $30 extra for it.
Oh,
I had to buy it separately.
The fuzzy?
Yeah.
I just like pet it sometimes. I'm like, it's
you're
so
into
soft.
it. You're into that. But don't pet it on this because they'll hear it.
Sorry, I might have already done that. I apologize. So, Mo says, anything related to Northern Ireland, I got you covered, so no worries at all.
Mo's the best.
Thanks, Mo.
I mean, we're hoping to get there, that's for sure, right after the NCAA.
I've never been to any part of Ireland, so making it to Northern Ireland I think would be pretty cool and special.
We just don't want to do it, like, irresponsibly or, when we shouldn't.
Yeah.
Have you named it? Have we named the microphone? No. Apparently I only name cars. And that's just because I am so fearful while I'm in the car that I'm like, I talk to it sometimes. I'll be like, Olaf, you got this. Clifford, the big red car, you got this.
'Cause she has so much confidence in my driving ability that she speaks to our cars, praying that they deliver her safely to the next place.
There's more than just Derek in charge here.
I am offended. No,
You do it. He's getting a lot better. Maybe I'm just getting more used to it. I don't know. Oh,
something like that.
You got like really close to the edge here. Oops. Just trying to show everybody Derek's drink.
Showing him what? No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Have you mastered backing up? Is what Mark wants to know. Mark Smith. Maybe.
So we have a car that has a rear facing camera, and those backup beeping sounds.
Oh, they're so annoying.
Yeah, they are very annoying. But they're also helpful.
I feel like they beep way too soon. And it's funny because like occasionally we've been driving on like the super narrow roads with like the hedgerows on either side and everything. And we were actually, so specifically in the Lake District, we were heading to Castle Rig Stone Circle. It's one of the Neolithic stone circles that we go to. That's up there, just north of Keswick, northeast of Keswick, I think. And so we went up there, and it had us go turn right down a road. And we took it, and it was one of those times when you're like, I feel like we shouldn't have turned. I feel like there was another way to get here that was not this road. And it was like the most narrow road I think we've been on so far, where the entire time we're driving down this thing, it was just beeping at us the whole time, like you're too close to things. And finally, a quarter mile later, we got to the place and it was fine. But like, I'm sure there was another way to get there.
My mom was calling both me and my dad out at the same time for being horrible backseat drivers.
I didn't say it.
That is not inaccurate.
The whole time Eliz is like pushing her like foot as if she has a brake.
I'm not, but I am holding on to the handle on the side.
The holy crap handle. I feel like if we have kids, I'm gonna be the one who has to teach them to drive because you'll just be like the whole time.
Sounds it.
Sounds right. So Purdue says, Mo, have you done the new?
And Mo's saying that if we have a blue Citroen C5 after a red one, we should call it just Add Blue. Yeah, that's accurate.
Just call it blue. Old blue.
Yeah, Old Blue.
Have you guys ever seen what was that? Old School?
Yeah,
Blue.
Blue. Oh my gosh,
Blue.
that's funny. So Citroens are not a car that is available in the U.S. So that's been a completely new experience.
It's a French car.
French brand of car as well.
Yeah. But again, getting back to Mark Smith's question about have I mastered backing up? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what he hasn't mastered, and I think he'll admit this just
parallel
as much.
Parking?
Yeah, parallel parking. Exactly what I was going to say. Derek's never mastered parallel parking, even in the U.S. And so I'll get out and help him with that. I
just need the car that does it itself. That's why I'm waiting for it. I always see, like, in the commercials, they hit a button, and it does it. And I'm like, I want that car. Yeah. That's my car.
That's Derek's car for sure. So they're talking about Carrick
Reed.
Yeah.
Carrick Reed.
So there's a new one, it sounds like, over in Northern Ireland.
They say, just don't look down.
Yeah.
So we had an issue like that, where when we were at Tintagel Castle in Cornwall, there's a bridge that spans the gap in the castle between like two sides of it. And we went over the bridge, and Eliz was very scared. She was very concerned.
Yeah, and Derek kept being like, Eliz, come back, I want to take your picture. And I was like, nope. No.
As soon as she got on the bridge, she was like, I'm going to go to the other side now. She was like, I'm not...
And I was like, in the dead middle. Like, I did not want to get towards the sides. And I'm a little bit afraid of heights. It's not that bad, but I just... That was not my bridge.
So, at one point in particular, I was like, we got to the middle, or I got to the middle, and I'm like, Eliz, come back, Eliz, come back. And she just like kept going. I'm like, well, I guess she can't hear me. Because in the middle, there's a little gap. It's not very big. It's kind of small. That you can like look down and just like look into the crevasse, which is pretty cool. And so I was trying to get Eliz to come back, and I'm like, look. And I got back to the end. She's like, why would I want to look at that? You know, it's just a very, not a fan. But to me, because like I think of suspension bridges or like rope bridges and whatnot, I think Capilano suspension bridge in Vancouver, and I think that's way scarier than what we were on. Yeah. But she didn't do well on that either, so.
It was, yeah, definitely. And there was like more people on it too, because in 2020 at Tintagel, they only let you go one direction on the bridge, and they only have a few people on it at a time. Yeah. So I don't know how it would be in normal times. Maybe that's always the case. Maybe it's not. But because of that, there weren't too many people like shaking it up. But when we were at Capilano Suspension Bridge in Vancouver, there was probably, I would guess, about 50 other people on the bridge.
It was swinging a bit.
Holy guacamole! It was. I wasn't in a great spot about that. My fight or flight reflexes started kicking in.
So Mark Smith says, "Did you kiss the Blarney Stone? You have to lay back to do it."
So I went to Ireland with my best friend years ago, and I definitely did that.
I even told her before she went, don't do it.
I know. I knew full out that people pee on it and stuff, or at least that's what they say. And I still did it because I'm a gross person. But yeah, no, it's a thing, and you just kind of gotta do it when you're there. You just gotta, maybe not during a pandemic, but like maybe another time that you're there, do it. Paul says, I'm not sure where, I think it's Japan, where there's a footbridge with glass panels which show cracks in the glass screens by computer camera. Nope. No. 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 Will not be going on that. I'm okay with bridges, sort of, but
no, she's not.
I'm okay. I'm not your brother, but I'm not great. Are you going back to the U.S.?
Andy Lee. Hello, Andy. How are you? Are we going back to the U.S.? Yes, we are.
We're going back on December 7th.
December 7th, we head back. We're going to fly American Airlines back to the U.S. And be there with family through the new year. We have a nephew being born in the early part of next year. And then after that, we'll kind of see what we do. I think we're kind of eyeing the Southwest a little bit. We both have family in Arizona and Utah, so that'd be pretty cool. And we have friends in Utah, so that'd be, a nice thing to do in the beginning of the year. So,
Purdue says, have fun with the car passenger vibe. I'd be up for meeting you at Chicago's Southside Track Audubon Club. They have plenty of high-speed driving events. Yeah, that sounds
Cool.
super fun. We're not like high-speed drivers, so I don't know if we would fit in, but we're also, going to be in Indiana a lot too, so that would be a cool way to connect with people too. Clayton Lucas,
Hey, Clayton!
Thanks, I'm so glad you found us and that you're commenting here and you've joined. He says, just found you guys and subscribed. Love following your travel experiences. Just wondering, did immigration ask you any additional questions or give you a hard time?
No. So we didn't talk to anybody when we got here. So when we came to the UK,
and we're going to assume that you're a U.S. citizen like we are, and we're basically talking on behalf of like all U.S. citizens when we say this.
So at the time when we came, which was in September, like early to mid-September, we were able to still do the e-passport gate, which basically allows you to scan your passport. It does like a biometric scan and then lets you through. We never spoke to anybody when we entered the country, so it was very easy for us. No hard time, no questions, etc.
And we did fill out all of our paperwork.
Yeah, we filled out our paperwork.
That's required in 2020.
Yeah, you have to fill it out within like 48 hours of getting there. So we filled that all out before we came, and everything was fine. There were no issues. Now, could that have changed since then? Potentially. Definitely look into it if you're coming here.
All of that can be found on gov.uk.
Yep.
There's like a travel section of that website. So if you are looking into visiting the UK, in the next year even,
definitely look into
that.
And so Andy Lee is saying, how are you going back from London? So we're flying on American Airlines, and we bought those tickets with miles. Currently, that's still an option.
We're actually flying back first class.
Ooh, yes.
First time either of us have ever flown official international first class across the Atlantic. You have?
Yes, I did on British Airways.
Derek has. Okay. Yeah.
No,
that shoulder off. It's getting a little dusty up there.
No, I flew first class British Airways between London and Chicago. Now, that being said, that I've never flown American Airlines first class.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't even know they still had it. So
yeah,
that was kind of cool for us.
Surprising, to be honest.
So we both booked first class on using miles because it was like relatively inexpensive. If like from a miles perspective compared to usual, it was more than like half off.
I think it was 75,000 miles for one way.
Yeah, so that was great. We plan to do that kind of just this one time, just because for us, like, business class is great. We would definitely do that, using miles and stuff. We would never buy those tickets. We would typically just buy economy and stuff. But yeah, we like it. Mark Finley's on. What's up, Mark?
Welcome back to the live chat.
Welcome.
Thanks for joining.
From church.
So hopefully we've answered some great questions. Oh, looks like a couple more are coming in. Luis asks, is travel card or Oyster card cheaper? So so Oyster card you absolutely need in order to use the
No, you don't.
What is a travel card? Because in my head, a travel card is for the train system.
I'm not sure about travel card, but Oyster card, you actually don't need an Oyster card anymore. If you have an iPhone, you can use Apple Pay. Well, yeah. And you can actually pay for your, using the tube.
Isn't that just loading your Oyster card into Apple Pay or no?
No, I think you just use your credit card on Apple Pay and it'll accept it.
So
you can do that in London now. It's like a brand new thing.
Okay. But if you don't have Apple Pay or you don't want to use it, and you want to use the tube, the Oyster card is the
preferred method.
The method to use. A travel card, what I think you're referring to is actually more to do with like the train system. and it'd be like a... Derek's just like eating salt. Stop! No! Nobody wants to hear that. I don't want to hear that.
You stole my salt.
Yeah, we should probably get going because clearly we're getting hungry. Yeah, so the travel card, I believe is like a pass that you can use on the railroad system in London, or in England, UK.
So Purdue is saying 3 different TFL accounts that I have signed up for. 1 is Oyster in general, 2 is Tolls in Dartford, and 3 is London congestion card.
Yeah.
If you drive in London.
So that's London, like basically gives a tax for, without a lack of a better word to describe it, on people who drive into the city.
Purdue is saying makes me think of that salt monster from Star Trek. Nice.
Yeah, so hopefully we answered that question. I would definitely pursue getting an Oyster card. I think you can order one to your home in advance even, if you want to have one as soon as you get there. Derek and I keep ours in our passport holders for the most part, and with our passports even when we're not traveling to England, so that way it's like ready and available for when we do. And
it's where I keep my Metro card for New York.
It doesn't expire. Like in New York, your Metro card expires like every 2 years or something like that. And you have to get a new one, and it's about $1. Oyster cards are a little bit more than that. Not
it's like
too
£5.
Much. Yeah, but they never expire. So why pay multiple times?
So Andy Lee says, "Are you flying to Dallas from London?"
Yep.
I think so. Yeah, I think we're doing DFW, or we're doing Chicago.
We flew from Dallas to London. I don't remember what we're flying. It's okay though. It's either Dallas or Chicago.
Oh yeah,
And honestly, like, there could be a scenario where it changes because given the English lockdown, if it gets extended, American Airlines might reroute us. So we're not, like, tying ourselves to one layover city.
Yeah. Especially given the time of year, right? Like, typically we would fly through Dallas over Chicago because in the wintertime, we would much rather, deal with the risk of Dallas's weather rather than Chicago. It gets quite cold, quite, snowy. So, we don't want to fly through that usually.
Yeah, and that's something that we take into account every time we travel in the wintertime. There's certain cities that get a lot more delays than others. So we'll look at our layover cities before booking tickets.
Mark Finley says if you have a layover in Dallas, let us know.
We will. I know.
This time we will. Sorry about last time. You guys
were rightfully a little bit salty with us when we had a 4 to 5 hour layover in Dallas last time. But we were very much intending to make sure that we limited our exposure during our travel.
So Purdue says Americans get a special Oyster card, aka Oyster Visitor, locals cannot get. It has special deals, and they will only ship it to you in the U.S. That's interesting. And Nicole is saying, where I live, I travel into London on the train. I can add a travel card at an extra cost to my ticket, and it then means I have one ticket, which I can use for the train, tube, and bus.
It's awesome, yeah. And I like that the Oyster card can be used for the overground train. It can be used for the bus. So you can really get around London as much as you need.
So Andy Lee asks, where are we from in the U.S.? So we're both from the Midwest. We live in Chicago, and we met in
Chicago.
Indiana.
Yeah, we met.
I'm from Indiana.
We met at Indiana
Chicago.
University, and we lived in New York City for 8 years.
Wow.
So we have a little bit of knowledge on that.
But most recently, we lived in Chicago. So
Yeah.
that's where we were for the past few years.
Yeah.
Now we're in the UK for a little while.
Yeah. Here we are in Fort William, Scotland. So if you guys have any Scottish recommendations, please keep us posted. Definitely follow us on Instagram over here. We can stay connected throughout the week. You guys can see where we're at, especially on my Instagram.
Magenta Otter Travels.
Current.
What's up, Magenta?
Hi, Dara. Welcome. Dallas is definitely not cold and snowy. Definitely not cold and snowy lately. That's great.
And she wants us to eat haggis. We will. We'll eat haggis.
My family in Arizona was saying that it's like super hot there still, and I know that other parts of the country in the U.S. and Canada have been snowing. So it sounds like you You get to pick your climate there.
Yeah, and Andy's asking, are we flying directly to Chicago? So typically we would. However, we have made a little bit of a change in the last year. So we rented our house out in Chicago so that we have a little bit more flexibility and freedom to travel. So we aren't going to be going back to Chicago. We'll likely be going back to Cincinnati, which is where my family lives, and spending the holidays with them.
On the Indiana side of Cincinnati. So when we say that we're going to Indiana, which
it's the southeast
every
part
once in a while we will use that language. It's outside of Cincinnati.
Yep. So Mary Ellen says it's unseasonably warm in Connecticut, but that won't last long. Yeah, especially with sunset coming at 4:30 p.m.
We were told from Derek's family that in the Cincinnati area at least it's been like 75 degrees.
Oh yeah, it's been like really nice. They told me that and I was like, I'm so jealous.
Yeah. So congrats to everybody for if you guys are experiencing really warm weather. I'm sure that feels nice.
All right, so Mark Finley is saying, DFW is having amazing weather right now. Hopefully it stays that way through the end of the month for the Walters visit. So yeah, Mark and Jocelyn and all them are heading down to Tejas, to Texas very soon, which will be really nice.
I can't wait to see those videos.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. I know it's a trip that they're looking forward to, and I think Mark had posted a picture of Lone Star beer, which everybody then jumped on and said nobody drinks that in Texas, because everybody would rather drink Tecate. That's what I think, at least.
I don't know.
Maybe some Dos Equis.
All the right tips.
I'm a big fan of Dos Equis Amber beer. Very delicious, very nice. But yeah, so that's nice. Catherine says, one day, once things calm down, you have to visit Southern Ireland, Cobb and Middleton, Jameson Whiskey Distillery in Waterford and Wexford, are really nice places. Ancient Eastern Viking villages. I've never been
Derek's got to get to Ireland.
I got to get to Ireland.
Yeah, absolutely.
Andy is saying, do we have a Midwest accent? I don't know. I can't hear my own accent.
I feel like every once in a while I'll say words that sound
Chicago.
extremely Chicagoan.
Chicago.
Okay, so Midwest accents. Let's talk about
I feel
those.
like the Midwest. So to me, the Midwest accent is the non-accent.
I feel like we say that because we're from the Midwest,
No.
at the same time,
I remember learning in high school that the Midwest accent is the accent that people try to perfect for like news anchors.
Yeah.
Because it's considered like the non-accent of the U.S.
Because if you're from like the South or you're from the East Coast, you try to
you don't want a New York. You don't want a
New
New York accent or a Boston accent or whatever.
No, I learned that.
You don't even want to be a Chicago. You want to be like Midwest Indiana, I feel.
Yeah,
but not
Chicago
Southern.
has, where I'm from, has a stronger Midwest accent, as does like Wisconsin and Minnesota. I guess where Derek's from is a little bit more, what's the word? Like,
What do you guys think?
like,
What's your question?
the Midwest accent's a little bit lower. Like, it's not as, I don't know what the right word is.
Eliz thought that I had a Southern accent.
Yeah, well, you do, because you say certain words in like you say like theater, which is like not a Midwest thing. Eliz has a much harder core accent, yeah. Straight out of Hinsdale. Yeah, no. I'm not even denying that. It's harder core than Derek's accent. Yeah, my Chicago accent definitely comes out every once in a while, and I'm not going to deny that in any way. Cincy means La Rosa. Yes, you are Midwest accent, yeah. I'm from the Chicago area too. Nice. I had a AP psychology teacher in high school who had the strongest Midwest accent I have ever heard in my entire life. So like, I know that I don't talk like her, so I don't feel like my accent is that strong. But you know, it's still there. It's still there for sure. Waltersworld says, Mark says, I assume you guys are going to travel to other places on this past this UK trip. So where will you be going to next as your house is occupied until the end of the year? That's a great question. So our nephew is technically due at the beginning of January, but it's looking like he might come early. So, starting in Jan-Feb, we are looking at potentially going to like Utah and Arizona to visit with family after spending time with our new nephew, and do kind of like that Southwest America road trip sort of thing. And beyond that, we are kind of looking at Mexico a little tiny bit, but a lot. Derek says a lot bit because we had kind of promised Derek's grandfather that we were going to take him to Mexico in 2020, but Derek's grandfather doesn't leave the house now, and rightfully so. So we're not.
We had promised ourselves that.
And and as such, we were going to go to Mexico ourselves as well. And so
we haven't even told him about it yet.
You talked to him about it, but anyway, so we obviously didn't do that this year and are thinking about other avenues towards Mexico. But we make decisions a lot more last minute than others, and it's based on data in these times.
Or as Star Trek would say, data. For all those fun Star Trek nerds.
Yeah. My accent is hardcore than Derek's accent, straight out of Hinsdale.
So Purdue says Johnny Carson was considered the most.
I just want to say one other person, because going back to my accent, somebody else said I have a little bit more vocal fry that creeps in or something like that. Yeah, I try to skip that, but it does creep in. I apologize.
Oh my gosh! I would like to think that I don't have.
I don't think I have that, but I'm working on that.
So Purdue says
that's a little bit of something that I'm self-conscious of. So.
Purdue says Johnny Carson was considered the most mid-speaking accent from Montana-ish, if I recall.
Johnny Carson's from Montana?
That's what he says. From Montana-ish, IIRC, if I recall correctly.
Yeah. I didn't know that.
So Mo says Northern Irish accent might be very hard to understand when you come. How do you find it so far in Scotland? So we haven't been, that's the thing, right? In these travel times, we don't talk to a lot of people.
Right.
We talk to some people occasionally. We've spoken to a few people here in Scotland even.
Okay, so we actually have a story about that because I have almost zero issue understanding people from Scotland, and knock on wood, because I'm sure I'm going to bite my tongue on that, but for some reason, I'm decently talented at that.
Fourth one, this is a McEwen's Headspace Scotch whiskey beer.
Derek buys these things just to be able to show you guys.
Yes.
So we were at Glenfinnan Viaduct, and there's this guy who was taking pictures with his tripod right behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, and he starts talking to me after the train goes by, and you're in this place that people from all over the world go to, and I could tell that he had a Scottish accent, but I was very confused because I could not understand him as well as I typically do, and I was like, maybe it's because I can't hear him as well because he's kind of standing far away and we're outside. And I would say that it was like 15 minutes into a conversation with him, Derek finally joins this conversation, and he finally admits that he's originally from Italy and he's just been living in Edinburgh for like 15 years. And I was like, oh, you are Italian with a Scottish accent. That is why I can't understand you.
She did not say that out loud.
No, but in my head, it was just like this sigh of relief, being like, okay, it's not that I'm losing my touch.
So no, he was cool though. He sorry, I'll stop rubbing my hands because Paul Tipton said that it really crackles the microphone.
Yeah.
So yeah, he definitely had like a different accent. Definitely had a Scottish brogue to it, but it was a little bit different and sometimes hard to understand. But he was a nice guy, and he was really cool. He said he didn't have any social media, but he took a picture of her card to get in touch with us and stuff.
But it was one of those things where, from like an accent perspective, I was so thrown off. I was like, what am I not picking up on? And it finally, like, everything
made
got
sense.
explained.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was fun to connect with people. I mean, last time we were at Glenfinnan Viaduct, we connected with people, I think, from Spain and from China. And like this time we connected with somebody, even though he was local, like, somebody originally from Italy. So it's one of those places that, talk to people, make sure that you connect and figure out where folks are from.
I thought the story you were going to tell was when we were coming up to the old military road to head up to that oyster place. And so what happened was, like, one of the highways here that we would usually take that goes up to the so if you're going from Glasgow to Oban, you would take a specific road that would take you up to a rest stop called the Rest and Be Thankful spot, which is a really nice overlook that we really enjoyed the last time. We're like, oh, I really want to go see that. Let's stop. It was a little bit off the track from where we were going, but we decided to go try to take it. And we go, and it detours us because the highway was not working because there were some like landslide things going on. And so we stop, and it turns out that it wanted us to go up via a one-lane road. And so what they were doing was they were convoying groups up and down. So basically you stopped at a red light while a convoy came down the hill. And then once they had all passed, up there it would turn into a red light, and then we would all convoy up the hill. And so we're stuck there, and we stop the car. And the guy ahead of us gets out of his car. He does this whole big like stretching thing, and he pulls out a big pipe, and he starts like putting like tobacco into it, and he like smokes his pipe and everything. And I stand up, and I start taking some pictures because it was pretty, where we were and stuff. And I'm taking pictures, and so we start talking to this gentleman. He starts telling us about he's actually from the area, and he's telling us about the other day he spent 2.5 hours in line. We're like, wow, we really hope that doesn't happen now. And we tell him that we are planning to go to this rest stop up ahead. And he's like, ooh, that's closed. And we're like, oh no.
And it's like, we can't turn around.
We can't turn around at this point. There's like 30 cars behind us.
We have to wait.
And I'm like, oh yeah, we were also planning to go to lunch at this seafood place. And he's like, oh yeah. Yeah, it's nice if you like seafood. And we're like, well, we do.
So.
But it was very funny.
But he had a very thick Scottish accent.
His pipe and stuff, and he's smoking his pipe, and it was very fun. So.
Andy Lee says, I have a New Jersey accent. So New Jersey accents can vary from like severity, if you will. And Northeast people talk fast. So one thing about New Jersey and New York, like Long Island, is that I feel like they're the only places in the country that say forward instead of forward. Like they don't pronounce that first R in that word. But I have cousins who are my age, like we're only a few months apart, and they grew up in Montclair, New Jersey. And when I was dating a guy freshman year of high school whose name was Scott, they would make fun of me to no end. They'd be like, "What's his name? Scott?" And I was like, "How do you guys pronounce it?" And they're like, "Scott."
He's no Derek. It's just
yeah. So it's just there's different vowel pronunciations within the U.S.
Yeah. No, we never had any issues in the Northeast. I mean, we spent a good amount of time up there. Obviously, living in New York for 8 years. Went to Boston quite a bit. Went to Jersey and some other places.
The Boston accent's different from the New York accent, which is different from the New Jersey accent, which is different from a lot of the other places in the Northeast. So it's hard to really put them all together as one Northeastern accent. And maybe we are able to distinguish it because we lived in New England for so long, but I definitely feel like they're all different.
Mark Walters was saying Route 66 for the spring. Very cool. So, yeah, that's one of the things like, it's funny because, Mark, I was watching your video on, the things to take on a road trip, right? And that was actually pretty helpful for me because, we'd been doing a road trip now for 2 months, basically. We've been driving everywhere and whatnot. Whether it's, the road trip through Kent or Cornwall or up to the Lake District or beyond into Scotland, we've been road tripping basically this whole time. And we're turning this into kind of our epic road trip of England, of the UK, I should say. And that was like super helpful in a few of the things that you mentioned that I wouldn't have thought of, which was really cool. And one of the things I think about a lot of times is from an American perspective. I was just telling Eliz this the other day. Is like from the American perspective, like a major road trip needs to be like thousands of miles, right? It's like doing the whole like Route 66, for the entirety of it. Whereas in Europe, a lot of times, like a road trip could be pretty, great, grand, epic, whatever, and it's relatively shorter because you can go through multiple countries in a very short amount of time, right? So, what for us, going from like Land's End up to John O'Groats, which is just under 1,000 miles, for the UK is like a massive road trip, right? And in America, that would be like, oh yeah, you drove a little bit, it's like, it's long, but it's not that bad. Now, what I will say is that the thing that I really got from driving in the UK versus driving in the U.S., where in the United States, if you're doing like a long road trip in the U.S., you're spending a lot of that time on highway. And driving highway is very easy, relatively. At least, from my perspective, it's pretty easy to drive very long distances at high speeds over a long period of time. Whereas in the UK, you're driving over a period of time, and if you're not on the highway, it can get rough, right? You're driving on like a very narrow lane, there's a lot of winds, there's like no shoulder. Like the moment that we hit a piece of road that has shoulder, I'm like, this is nice. Like, this is really nice over here. So it's very different. And so, like, there are very different things to driving here in Europe, especially in the UK, versus other places, and stuff to talk about. So.
Yeah, I'm just kind of like reading everybody's accent comments right now. Purdue said something that like really just goes to my core because I have a friend from
Aussies.
No, he says I was on a phone with Apple support yesterday and correctly guessed he was from Long Island. The way that they say their G's is very guttural and stands out. I have a friend from a town in Long Island called Hapog, and the way he says it is just like he's from Hapog, Long Island. It's like you hear it. Hapog, Long Island.
That's fine.
It's so relatable to me. Yeah, it's people from everywhere have accents. There's no person that doesn't have an accent, so you just kind of have to own it.
So Thomas Reiser says it's in the 70s right now in Illinois, but it's going to be going back to the 50s. Rough. Magenta Otter Travels. The red light, green light thing is really common in Britain. What is that?
My guess is like it's... I actually don't know, because I was thinking of the different stoplights and how like they
goes the
prepare
yellow.
You. Yeah, they prepare you for the green light, but maybe not. You'll have to elaborate on that one. Wait, sorry, but I want to go back to what Mo was saying. And Mo is talking about how the Northern Ireland accent is very difficult, and I actually would disagree in the sense that once you learn the slang words of certain places, then you can kind of navigate what's being said. And I say that as somebody who's never been to Northern Ireland. I've just basically watched like Dairy Girls and a few other things from Northern Ireland. But I guess my point is more about like if you know kind of the terminology
and the wee Irish or the wee Englishmen.
Yeah, no. But if you know like what like what the certain words mean and how it references, like the pop culture references sound like, then you're able to decipher what's being said a little bit.
So Marilyn Dillon says, where in Mexico are you thinking? I have 3 friends who are there now. Yeah. So in Mexico, for me, it's Mexico City. So going to Mexico City would be pretty awesome because that's kind of like the cultural center and everything. There's a lot of great museums. And
you have extended family.
I have extended family in Mexico City. And then my grandfather's from Michoacan, which is southwest. Yeah, southwest of Mexico City. So we'd want to go there. He's actually from a city that is called
go there, but it's not necessarily a given.
It's not a given because it's not considered a safe fish. It's not the most safe place. But there is a place there that's called one of the Pueblo Mexicos, which is like one of the magical villages of Mexico. It's called Jiquilpan, which is the village that he was born in. So it'd be great to go back there and maybe meet some of the extended family that we've never met before. But yeah, so Mexico, there's a lot of things to see, a lot of things to do. It's a massive country with a bunch of different regions. The food is very different depending on where you're going.
The other places that we want to go as like tourists are Oaxaca and San Miguel de Allende.
Ooh, San Miguel.
Yeah. So like we don't have, like Derek doesn't have family ties to it. It's just somewhere, those two places are places that we really just desire to visit.
So Nicole says, would love to see your trip to Utah. Should have been in Salt Lake City for an event right now, but was obviously canceled.
Okay, so
and
Nicole,
was held virtually.
My best friend lives in Salt Lake City, so
Salt
we've
Lake
actually
great.
been a lot, and I've never vlogged it. Because it was kind of like
before you started doing vlogs.
Yeah, before I started doing real vlogs and stuff like that. Yeah. So I went twice in 2019. Derek went once, and we went to Salt Lake and Moab and did like several national parks in 2019. And then in 2018, I also did certain national parks there. And then at the beginning of 2020, Derek and I went to Zion National Park and visited his aunt and uncle who live outside of St. George. So like we are, for Midwesterners, pretty knowledgeable about Utah. If anybody has questions about that area, we have not been to all of the national parks. We have not been everywhere, but it's in the past 3 years we've gone there more than others. so we can speak to it a little bit, and it is beautiful.
Jenta Otter Travels in Utah is beautiful, and then Nicole will have another chance to get to Salt Lake City. Okay, so Purdue says, I was behind some Aussies in Disney and could not understand a thing. Basically.
Yeah, so I used to have an Australian boss, and so I picked up a little bit more than I'm. In fact, the CEO of our company and my boss at the time were both Australian, so I was able to really start to learn how to understand that. But it takes practice. You have to kind of like decipher. What are you trying to read?
Oh, so Magenta Otter was talking about red light, green light thing is really common in Britain. So that's like the waiting for like a convoy and stuff. She said, but 2.5 hours is not common. So the thing there on the 2.5 hours and why that happened, he told us, was because a lorry or like a HGV, a heavy goods vehicle, whatever, like a semi truck in the U.S. Had like something had happened where it was taking up the entire street and it crashed or something. So he ended up just like turning around and going home, basically, which is what happened there.
Mark Finley says, sorry, I just want to jump to Mark Finley because I love Navajo tribe. I love Native American stuff in the U.S. When we drove through the Navajo Nation in Utah, we went all day without finding an open gas station or restaurant. That's got to be scary. Hopefully you didn't need it too badly. We were very glad to fill up earlier and then have lots of car snacks. Yeah. So, in Utah, when you drive through the Navajo Nation, you know when you've entered it. Like, okay, I actually haven't done it I think the last time I did it was probably 10 years ago, driving through the actual Navajo Nation, which is like when you cross the border from Colorado into Utah, you're going from the Ute Nation to the Navajo Nation in that kind of like corner area, and then driving basically to Kayenta and Tuba City in Arizona. But there is a little section, if I'm remembering correctly, that is the Navajo Nation, and it's in Utah, and you know exactly when you enter it, because it's not that the roads are bad, it's just that they change in terms of like the concrete, because they've been filled in at different points. So once you do that, like you are in the kind of like, you're in like God's country at that, like it is, there's nothing to be found for so long. So you really have to do your research if you're doing that kind of road trip, and understand like where you should be stopping and when, and where those areas are that you can refuel, you can fill up your water, etc., etc. And that's actually similar, and that brings us to what we're planning for next week in the North Coast 500 in a lot of ways, because it's so remote where we're planning to go next week in Scotland, especially this time of year, that we need to map out where the gas stations are. We need to map out where we're going to be staying overnight and stuff, and plan for that.
See a gas station, use a gas station. See a toilet, use a toilet.
See a toilet, use a toilet. Yeah.
And related to that, Magenta Otter Travel says, okay, the It's Closed thing is a real problem during the pandemic. The worst is that as a traveler, there are so many closed toilets. It was frustrating when you gotta pee. Yes.
So,
and when we went to Kilchurn Castle, that might not have stopped me.
Okay, so in the U.S., we have a car. It's at Derek's parents' house right now. And we, in that car, have certain methods for helping us with that.
Turlets.
There's something, okay, like I don't want this channel to be like the how do I pee while I travel channel, but like there is something that exists.
There's a thing you can buy.
Hour 4, we're getting into the real info.
It's a little bit better than a water bottle.
It's called a female urinal.
You just pee right into it.
And I got it using FSA dollars in the U.S. On FSAstore.com years ago. Have never ever used it. Knock on wood, but if you're interested in a very long
if you're interested
in a very long road trip in 2020 in the US, that might be something to get on Amazon.
Yeah, all right, cool. So Purdue says, so UK British folks, do you hear yourselves say the name of H?
Yeah, so like if your name is Hannah, for example, in the US, you would spell it Hannah, basically. I really over-enunciated on that, but like that's kind of, you will hear that for sure. Or like Hertfordshire, it's like H-E-R-E. Like it's, you'll definitely hear that difference in how they pronounce that letter.
Yeah, so Andy Lee, are you going to meet with Walter's World when you're going back to the US of A?
Would love to.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
I 100% would love to meet with Mark and Jocelyn. They're
we like them a lot. Good people.
Heroes of ours, really.
Heroes of Walter's World. Yeah, so, great people. We were hoping to meet up with them actually like this over the summer. We were hoping to do some trips and actually see them. But things obviously changed a little bit for us, and we ended up coming out here.
We all talked about going to the Upper Peninsula of Michigan and meeting up there, and it didn't really work out for any of us, which was such a bummer. But honestly, like I have faith. We'll meet Mark and Jocelyn in person, no question. We were able to meet the Gallivanting Gals in person.
We did
this year, right before we left for the UK, and that was super fun.
Yeah, that was great to see them, and we hope Melinda's doing okay. Yeah, obviously. There's been some health issues for the Gallivanting Gals.
So many good vibes and prayers to them.
They're looking to get back. I think like maybe next week. I think they're trying to get back into the videos and stuff.
So for those of you guys who follow the Gallivanting Gals, they typically do like a Sunday snippet stream right before ours on Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern. And so we go live at 11 a.m. Eastern in the U.S. time. And they're working through some different health things, and hopefully we'll be back up next week.
Yeah. All right, so Mo is saying all my road trips combined is like 0.005% of Nick P's mileage. Yeah, so Nick P did a ton of driving recently.
Nick P crushed it. Nick P did the whole U.S.
I mean, you map out his trip and it makes ours look like nothing.
And that's funny because we've said to people while we've been here, we're like, oh, we're going end to end. And they're like, that is such a long drive. What are you thinking?
I mean, just the other day.
Not what are you thinking, but they're like.
No, but just the other day, like somebody was like, oh my God, like just going from London to Land's End in Cornwall is a long drive.
And we went from like London all the way to Dover, and then Dover to basically Land's End, and Land's End we're gonna hopefully go to John O'Groats. And people are like, whoa, here. And then in the U.S., it's like,
fun.
We drove 1,000 miles. Like, we can do that in a day.
But again, so like that's my whole thing about talking about like road trips in the UK is that it's very different. Like it really is. It takes more time. It is, to me, at least, it's a little bit more like not nerve wracking so much as like it's a more stressful drive in my opinion. And yeah, so whatever, it's fine. So Mark Finley, when you drove through Navajo Nation in Utah, we went all day without finding an open gas station.
I had skipped and read his. Sorry.
Got it. All right. Okay, so Catherine says, LOL at Purdue. The Long Island accent is very distinct. R's and G's. I find it hilarious. Listen to it.
Joyzy.
And the Joyzy accent, too, from my perspective. Irish, living in New Jersey, New York City.
Like I said, everybody has an accent, so I've never focused on trying to tell anybody ever that they're saying something wrong. They're just saying something based on where they grew up.
Yeah. So Paul Tipton is saying, at Purdue, I try to save the H. I try to say the HH. The thing that gets me is the word herb in the USA is pronounced as herb in the US as opposed to the H in the UK as herb.
Yeah, it's like Hugh versus Hugh. You.
Yeah. All right, Purdue, you did perfect Long Island G. I did a girl from Hangum, Peabody for Peabody.
Love
Peabody.
it.
That's so funny. Thomas Reiser, Johnny Carson is from Nebraska.
And then I think there was a little bit about, there's Nebraska versus Iowa. People were not quite sure. So he's either from Nebraska or Iowa based on this chat. We're not 100%.
So Magenta Otter Travels is telling Nicole what county is she from, I think, because they have a flat in Cheltenham. That's fun. So Mary Ellen, no real accent here in Connecticut. Accents around us are so strong in New York City and Boston.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that there is definitely still an accent because everybody has one.
Yeah.
It just depends on where, because if you're from Connecticut and you go to the UK, people will be like, oh, where are you from? Because they'll notice that you have something different. But yeah, it's not as pronounced as other areas in New England.
So Purdue is saying flashing light prior to green, go on the flash. Yeah, pretty much everybody starts going when it flashes yellow before going green. And Paul Tipton says, not sure if you answered this, but have you seen the Kelpies in Scotland near Falkirk? We have not. We have not gone up there. We want to.
We were supposed to when we went to.
I really wanted to.
When we were in Scotland last time. And we had to skip it because we were running really behind.
Yeah, we ran out of time.
Now we can't go because it's in a tier 3 area. And we're really sad about it.
Yeah, it's a bummer. Because we did want to go to it as well. Purdue is saying Connecticut has no Pepperidge Farms. Creeping at all. I don't know what that means, but Pepperidge Farm. There we go. Nicole is saying Glaswegian accent is very different from the Edinburgh accent.
Yeah.
The Ouija's. Right? Ouija? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Ouija's?
Yeah, and that's true. Yeah.
Cool. Mary Ellen, Pepperidge Farms? Farns? I don't know. Okay, so Magenta Otter Travels, you gotta have cheese and Branston pickle sandwiches. That's what I ate in my UK quarantine. I don't know what a cheese and Branston pickle sandwich is.
So we're not big pickle people.
I would pick a pack of pickled peppers.
Nailed it.
Peter Piper.
I don't hate pickles, but I don't buy them at the store. So.
I don't go out of my way looking for artisanal pickle peppers.
It's funny when Megan was living with us this summer, which some of you might remember.
She was our roomie.
Megan.
But
and
mainly PG.
Megan was into dill pickles in the fridge, and we were like, "Oh, this is new." Yeah.
I may have eaten one or two.
Yeah.
They were very tasty.
We're not against pickles. We're just not we just don't buy them. So interesting to hear that that's a thing to get in the UK. We've really focused on ham and cheese sandwiches. That's what we've been making with mayonnaise and mustard because I feel like that's very authentic still. You see them in the stores.
So Mo is saying, I used to say a lot of words the American way, like garage, vehicle, and more, but had to change that the moment I came to the UK. Oh, and the word pants means trousers in the US, but means underwear in the UK.
Yes, we're aware.
And instead it would be garage and vehicle, I think, in the UK. Magenta Otter is saying, do they like Cheltenham? I love it so much, and I hope to get to Bedfordshire next summer and try
We haven't
Bedfordshire
been to Cheltenham or Bedfordshire. Someday, maybe, hopefully, we'll get to go there. Produces Apple TV Plus.
Ooh, long way up. Okay, yes. All right, this is all me. So Purdue.
Derek's into this.
So Purdue is saying...
Stop rubbing your hands at the microphone. People don't like it. Stop
So Purdue is saying Apple TV Plus shows Scotland's now American Ewan McGregor long way up, just passed through Oaxaca. Great motorcycle show, 3rd of 3. So yes, this is super cool. Ewan McGregor has a really awesome set of 3 basically documentaries, I guess.
Derek's super into these.
I've seen the first 2. I haven't seen the 3rd one yet, but basically what he does is the first one was The Long Way Around, I think, where he went from London and then he crossed the channel and then he drove east to like Russia and back around to like Alaska through Canada and like the US, and then took like a boat, I think, again from there to basically say that he did his motorcycle the long way around the world.
I can't confirm nor deny this because I did not watch any of this with Derek.
Very cool. And then the next one was he did the long way down, which was he started up in the very northern part of Scotland and he drove all the way down to South Africa. So he ended up doing from Scotland down through England, down through the continent. I think he went down through, I want to say Italy, took a ferry to like Syria, and then he went from there down through all of Africa. And the new one is a long way up, and I think he starts in like South America and works his way up from there, which is like super cool and like very like, I know the first 2 he did using BMW motorcycles. I don't know what he does in the newest one, if it's still with BMW or somebody else, but him and his buddy did the first 2 together. Again, I don't know if his friend, who's also a fellow actor, is in the next one or not, but that's very cool. Big fan of that.
Yeah, Derek loves those. Yeah, so I think we're probably gonna end up watching that. But Purdue says he passed through Oaxaca, so we'll have to watch that.
Yep,
that'd be fun.
Magenta Otters, I would love for you to watch my Words Not to Say video on my channel. It's about words Americans shouldn't say in the UK, like pants, LOL.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Well, there's probably some others, right?
Mo's been living in Northern Ireland for a little while now, so I'm sure he's picked up on a lot of them and could probably make his own video at this point for us to all watch.
Well, what is it?
But
so, like,
I mean, there's certain
like,
things in
like
Northern
pants?
Ireland that are different than even here. Like, there's certain slang that leans probably a little bit more Irish. And again, I'm basing this off of my knowledge from Dairy Girls. But it's like things like the crack or something like that they don't really say here in Great Britain. But it means like the fun in Ireland and Northern Ireland. So it's just learning what all of those regional nuances might look like. So
Purdue is asking Mary Ellen Dillon, does farm have a rhetoric R, or do you say farm? Go to use the farm.
Like in Connecticut, I think, because
So,
Mary Ellen's in Connecticut.
Catherine Haggerty, I have to say I love the highways here in the USA. Doing road trips is easy to follow. Getting from A to B is safer and enjoyable. But in Ireland and the UK, not so much. It can be quite difficult.
You know what's an interesting thing that we've noticed driving in the UK? And I don't know if this is in Ireland too, but when you're in a roundabout and you're trying to get off at an exit, say you're getting off on like the M5. And
that is a road.
Yeah, yes. Yeah. And that's like a highway, like an expressway. And there might be the M5 north and the M5 south, but they don't label it as such like they would in the US. So like in the US it'd be like, okay, you're getting on I-80 East or I-80 West. Instead here it'll be like the M5, and then you're supposed to know which city is the direction that you want according to the signs. Obviously, you can follow your sat nav or your Google Maps or something like that, but they don't have it as like the M5 North or the M5 South. They just have it like M5, Manchester. I actually don't know if that's a thing, but it's like M5 this city, M5 this city, and you're supposed to know which way is north and south. So that's a little bit more confusing, I would say. Would you say that? Because I feel like that's something that we talked with Graham about a little bit when we were in the Cotswolds.
Sorry, I just turned on my phone and I got the news alert about Alex Trebek, and that's really sad.
Alex Trebek.
I'm so sad.
Mark got 2 out of 8 of his videos done. Yay! Everybody be productive while you're watching us. Just keep watching us, but be productive.
But whistle while you work.
There's great things to do. We're not being... I wish I could edit my videos while I was doing this. When Mark says when we went through the Crow Nation in Montana, they had roadblocks because of COVID, so we didn't go in.
Interesting, but they
Good,
drove
they're
through.
protecting themselves. Honestly, like, you're not going to get me to say anything otherwise. I'm very glad that those nations are protecting themselves.
Mary Ellen is saying farm instead of farm would be a Boston accent. Yep. So Magenta Otters, I've been to West Valley City. You'll have a great time, I'm sure. So pretty there. So that's in Salt Lake City.
I haven't been to that part of Salt Lake.
Purdue says Roger. I don't know what that means.
Is it Roger Sexton? Something about him? I don't know if he's still on.
I don't know, but...
Time for kisses on! Mwah. Love you.
Time for a kiss.
Time
Come on
for
more.
kiss, we love you.
Come on more often.
Waltersville, can you interview some Native Americans during your trip?
That'd be cool.
That would be super cool. Now I'm thinking about if there's an avenue for me to be able to do that if we go.
So,
Simply Jocelyn's on too.
Hey, Jocelyn,
Hi,
what's up?
Jocelyn.
Hey, we like you.
Welcome.
All right, so real quick though, Mark Walters is saying, Derek, you just make me thirsty.
Derek drinks a lot of beer on these for sure. We also have, so you guys can't smell it, but we have
Duck confit.
Duck confit.
Ooh, Simply Jocelyn. Wait, Jocelyn, if you're still on, I made duck confit.
Yeah, Derek needs to brag to you about his first. We've never made this before, so we were following a online recipe. Derek was. I'm not taking any credit whatsoever.
Duck confit.
That's our dinner for when we stop talking to you guys. I'm so mortified, but how is it?
Oh, it's so good. You want to bite?
No.
You want to bite?
No, that's yours. Mine's the other one. I'm going to eat it with dignity later.
No dignity.
With like a fork and knife and a napkin.
Oh, that's good.
This
Guys.
is not like a we're not at medieval times. This is not a turkey leg moment.
You heard it here first. I make a damn good duck confit.
But it turned out okay?
Mm-hmm.
It's good? Okay. I'm excited. I'm also like, I feel like I'm blushing. That was so crazy. Okay. Yes. Mary Ellen says, the girls live in Nashville now, so closer to travel to see them. Yeah, so it seems like Mary Ellen and Nicole and Dara are all talking to each other.
Oh, so good.
Yeah, people were commenting on our toilet recommendations.
Wait, squatting?
Whoop. Oh, we are super behind. You guys, I'm so sorry. Our thing was basically saying that we were
caught up.
Caught up, and all of a sudden there was a jump.
But I do love that Simply Jocelyn saying it's not Jocelyn, it's Mark uploading videos on Jocelyn's channel. That's awesome. But we still love you, Jocelyn.
We still love Jocelyn and Mark.
We like you both. Oh no, and Melinda had to go back into hospital again. Oh,
yeah, I've been following them
Yeah.
every single day on social media, and it's just tough. And yeah, we all hope Melinda's doing okay and that her new procedure is going to go okay. So, prayers, good vibes.
Yeah. Haha, Eliz, you're right and nicely maneuvered. I don't know what that's in response to, but I like that.
I don't know, but Paul's also telling me that Hertfordshire is pronounced Hertfordshire, not Hertfordshire, just helping out. I actually didn't know that, so that is helping out. Oh, I'm such a noob.
All right, so Magenta Otter is saying, I would love to spend Christmas in Cheltenham one year. Just got to talk my hubby into it. He only likes coming to Britain in the summertime. Less rain, less bad weather. Yes.
And it sounds like, Dara from Magenta Otter Travels. I agree. We need to watch your video about how to pronounce British place names. Well, we could use a brushing up. Do you have any on Scotland in that video? I'm curious.
Purdue, they made a Peter Piper joke on GBBO last night. Peter Piper picked up Pippers. What's GBBO?
God, we're so behind, aren't we? Okay, so the prom in Cheltenham is lovely at Christmas. I'm assuming that's kind of like the short for promenade. Yeah. It's also good after Christmas sales. Yeah, January is a great time to go to the UK if you're interested in shopping, because that's when a lot of the sales happen. So the sales cycle in Europe generally is a bit different than the sales cycle in the US. So if you plan your trips right, you're going to find like January and I believe it's July are a little bit more in terms of like all of the places have sales, because it's kind of like turning over the inventory for new seasons, etc. Excuse me. So when I went to Paris in July, like literally everything was on sale, and it was super, super fun to be able to shop there at that time. Paul Tippin says, with my accent, I sometimes have to repeat myself even to the locals. Oh my gosh. Wait, are you from that area and the locals have the same accent as you? Or is that you've moved to a different spot in the UK and need to repeat yourself? I have to know the answer to this, because I'm trying to like understand if that's something that I need to, if I'm understanding this right. I'm sorry, I'm like trying to read through all of the things. Eric B says he has to check out that video on Magenta Otter Travels channel, which so do we. Purdue says, Guy came to paint my house and I immediately asked him if he was a Mainer. Don't encounter many Mainers in central Indiana. So when I went to Maine, growing up I went to Maine for a week each summer when I was in middle school, so 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I could definitely pick up on the different accents that are in that area. But what's fun is that they have like this whole other thing about being, gosh, now I'm like blanking. It's like it's like the down north or something like that. Now I'm totally going to be corrected by you guys. But yeah, please correct me. It's I know I'm saying it wrong. It's not down north. It's something else. Derek, you've never been to Maine, right? I don't think so. Yeah. It's something like that, and it's like this oxymoron of things, but it's so Maine, and Maine's one of my favorite places in the U.S. It's so beautiful to visit. Okay, so happy when John Lewis opened in Cheltenham. Not long after we bought our first flat. Yeah, John Lewis is a great department store. Purdue says, Guy came... Oh, yeah, no, I already read that out. Where I love to go... Derek's what are you microwaving, rice? We want to stay on and talk to you guys because we love talking to you guys, but we're definitely at 7:30 at this point. So we're getting hungry. Okay, where I love to go in December is Paris.
Paris is phenomenal.
But
I love
if
Paris.
You're trying to shop, go in January to Paris.
Emily in Paris. Was it Emily in Paris? Is that the name of the show?
Yeah, that's the one.
Emily in
Netflix.
Paris. Netflix. If you're
Eric B loves
if you really need your like Paris fix, Emily in Paris is a good option.
Mo says Eliz
Guilty pleasure.
Eliz doesn't like pickles, but I like mushy but likes mushy peas. I love pickles, yeah. So I like mushy peas. I actually had split pea soup for lunch today.
Yuck.
But it's not that I dislike pickles, it's that I don't seek them out.
Ever since Buckwheat and the Little Rascals, like, I got 2 pickles, look at me, hey, 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 hey.
I like that movie.
So good.
But you're not like super into pickles either.
But I'll eat them.
Yeah.
A pickle spear. Love it.
Mo says Dairy Girls is basically better Duolingo for the accent. Love it.
Nice.
Crack is an Irish thing.
Crack.
But they
Crack.
say it in Dairy Girls, so I'm guessing it's also a Northern Irish thing.
Live wire, bikes, and electric trucks at this time. What? Electric Harley, live wire? Where's that?
I don't know. I don't get why UK folks hate our pronunciation of yogurt.
How is it supposed to be pronounced?
I've never heard a UK person pronounce yogurt, apparently. Even Netflix, The Good Place, has a sign for yogurt pronounced 3 ways. Fascinating.
Nice. All right, so Magenta Otter. Ooh, there. Ding.
Rice is done.
Rice is done. Magenta Otter says, I'm sure the Cheltenham John Lewis is not as good as London, but I'm just chuffed to have one in my own
I've actually
town.
never been to the John Lewis in London. I only went to the one in Glasgow. I think, yeah.
Glasgow.
When we were in Scotland 2 years ago.
So Purdue is telling Parl Tipton that Charlie Borman, his dad, directed Excalibur and the classic Deliverance. Interesting.
Nice.
Paul Tipton says the clapping is like fireworks going off with the crackling. LOL. I'll stop. I will not clap anymore.
Paul Tipton also says UK people ask for a rubber in the USA, which is their word for eraser.
It's a different word in the US.
Translation.
Yeah, a rubber.
So
they sell like hotcakes.
We're all learning. Okay. Yeah, so there's definitely different pronunciations for sure. Loud Americans. Oh gosh, we're still so behind. I'm so sorry, you guys. We're trying to catch up.
Oh, Marilyn Dillon. Derek doesn't need a fork and knife. No, I don't.
Yeah, that must have been when he was eating duck leg. I live next to medieval times at Gulf Rousseau.
I would love to go to a medieval times. She will not go with me. I think.
Have you never been?
Can you guys tell me?
Wait, have you never been to a medieval times?
No, I've been to an Excalibur in Vegas.
You've never been?
No, but I've been to Excalibur in Vegas.
Is that like the same? I don't know.
It's a whole casino about
Okay,
it.
so medieval times, for those who are not from places that have those, it's a place, it's a restaurant and show, mostly in suburban America.
Good ale.
Like they have it in like Jersey, they have it in Schaumburg, Illinois. And you go and there's turkey legs and like things that you can eat with your hands that would have been
tankards of water
like would have
and
been
ale
available in medieval Europe. And then you're assigned to a section that you cheer on a certain knight, and then the knights joust each other, and you're supposed to be like super rowdy and like cheer those knights on and stuff. And then,
Yeah.
It's a whole thing. It's
whole
like
thing.
a dinner and a show. Yeah.
Have you ever seen The Cable Guy with who's the guy from Cable Guy? It's the guy who plays Biden in the SNL stuff. Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey from The Cable Guy. It's a big part of that movie. So no, like that I would totally go. We could make a whole video series about medieval times.
Could we?
Maybe. I'd do it. Come on. It'd be so much fun.
Yeah. I actually don't know if they're even open right now. But I'm probably. It's fun. I went in 6th grade with it was a field trip, I believe.
Yeah, so Catherine is saying, I watched Ewan McGregor's documentary, his motorcycle trip to Serbia and Kazakhstan, where he and his crew had a hard time trucking through the dirty, muddy roads. Love those shows, Derek. Yes, they definitely have some issues with like mud and all that kind of stuff, which is fun. Catherine, Derek, the entertainer, the next Emerald, Jamie Oliver, naked chef. Haha.
Yeah, so Derek's the chef in our relationship. For those of you who do not know, he takes on a lot of things that I would not take on. The reason why we even bought duck this week, we both loved ordering duck confit and at restaurants, and we've never, ever, ever, ever cooked duck before in our entire lives. And Derek just looked up a recipe today because duck was like half price at Marks and Spencer's
Super
when we
cheap.
went to the grocery store.
But Mark has a great question for you. Has Derek ever given you 30 files and said, here you go, and then you have to go through and try to figure out the video with no context asking for a friend?
No,
I've never done that.
So Derek doesn't film himself.
Jocelyn, what are you doing?
We can talk offline about this, but we're still working through, now that Derek's a little bit more part of this channel than he has been in the past. Derek will like shout out different ideas for things without realizing how much work is involved.
Boo. I don't do that.
How much work might be involved in like doing those things, or like we'll be at a place and he'll be like, hey, you should film this video right now, and it's like
what? I don't do that. Come on, that's mean.
I don't know. You definitely Derek's still learning what a workflow process might look like for a YouTube channel.
Excuse me.
You are, and you're getting there. You're getting there. You're learning. You're getting better.
Thank you. Okay, so Magenta Otter. I love Jamie Oliver. Been watching him for donkey's years. I don't know what a donkey's year is, but maybe it's more than a dog's year. I don't know. Purdue says GBBO is great. Great British Bake Off.
We still haven't watched this, really, but everyone's obsessed with it here.
Everybody is obsessed. I've never watched it. It seems so good. Catherine Haggerty says, hee, my favorite is Nigella Lawson. Have her cookbooks and follow on YouTube. Paul Tipton says, same area as the locals and lived there with my...
Okay,
all
so
my
he's
life,
from the same
born
area.
and raised. I usually think, wash your ears out with when someone a few miles down the road can't understand me. Haha. Nice.
Love it. Thanks for answering me on that. By
Mark, it sounds like Mark's taking off. Mark, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate
Bye,
having
Mark.
you here.
Bye, Jocelyn. Thanks for joining.
Lori Sim says, bye, Mark, and looking forward to your new vids. Yeah, we are too.
We are too, for
Magenta
sure.
Otter Travelers, Brits say yog, not yoag.
So what I've really appreciated that didn't exist when I started abroad in
Yogurt.
2009 is all of a sudden in a lot of British grocery stores.
Oh, yogurt and say yogurt. Yogurt.
There's a lot of places that have dairy-free yogurt that didn't used to. So I ended up buying something cool. I'm going to show you guys.
I do love that Paul Tipton then says yogurt or yogurt, depends on spelling. And when you read it as yogurt or yogurt, it's fun. UK people usually pronounce it as yogurt. Yogurt. And Purdue says plaster equals Band-Aid.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so I have an almond yogurt here. This brand also makes soy yogurt, and then there's this one that's flavored, and it's raspberry and white peach, which is like a flavor that would never ever happen in the US, and it's oat based. And then this one's also oat based, but it's a different brand, and it's also plain. And I'll make my overnight oats with it, with all of these things, but all of these things aren't really available in the U.S., so I thought it would be interesting to show you guys. Because the ones that I buy in the U.S. are from Forager, and they're like cashew yogurt. They're made with cashews.
So according to Nicole, the other word that has a different meaning between the UK and the USA is the word period. I don't know, maybe.
I don't want to dive into that too.
We're not going to we're not diving into that one. Magenta Otter Travels. Europeans have an H in yogurt. It is spelled that way in Britain also. Nice. Catherine Haggerty. Derek, do you own a motorcycle? Have you done the Tail the Dragon in Tennessee and Triple Nickel in Ohio.
Derek
Great
does not
curvy
own a
stretch
motorcycle.
roads drives a must do. I don't. I want to learn how to drive a motorcycle. My dad is in the process, I think, of buying a motorcycle. He used to ride one back in college, and we always talked about learning how to drive them as a family, like me, my 2 brothers, my dad. So maybe my wife doesn't like it. My mom also doesn't like it. So we'll see what happens.
No.
Probably not. Okay, so Paul Tipton says, GBO, got to watch out for soggy bottoms.
Nice.
Great British Bake Off, I assume is what that is. I don't know. Catherine Haggerty, Medieval Times is near me in Lyndhurst, New Jersey. Derek, you have to do it. Definitely not Vegas. It's also fun.
Yeah. We'll take you to Medieval Times at some point.
We're going.
Yeah.
All right. Purdue says...
I don't know if it's open right now, but we'll figure this out.
So Purdue says, Ewan, long way around, the girl named Jamin that Ewan adopted in Mongolia meets up with Ewan and Charlie in Central America in the current TV show.
Awesome.
I didn't know he adopted a Mongolian chick. Like, that's
Mary
crazy.
Ellen says that she's seen the Oatly brand in the U.S., and I have too. I've only seen it as like oat milk, like you're saying. I hadn't seen it as yogurt. Maybe it does exist.
I love this.
Yogurt.
Yogurt. Texas, you call it yogurt. Nice. So Magenta Otter Travel says, Purdue, from now on, I will just for you because you love otters. Nice.
Mo says I'm going to do my theory test for a motorcycle license in a few weeks. Oh my gosh, you and Mo are like the same person. Okay.
Then a practical test in the summer.
We're going to have to go before you guys all convince Derek to get a motorcycle because I don't want him to get one. So... love you all. We really appreciate all of you guys for your time. We've been on for what, like 3.5 hours?
I don't know, I've had 4 beers. I need a 5th beer.
We have to eat our dinner. But it's been super fun to hang out with you guys. As always, stop, Derek. And we really, really appreciate you guys coming, week after week. We're going to have our live stream next Sunday, most likely live from Inverness. Right before we start the North Coast 500, so hopefully you guys can join. Thank you all so much for your support of our decision to stay here. It's been really, really great to have all of you guys really understand what we kind of went through this past week of the chaos and everything like that, and share that, our trip with you in that sense. I think too, stop. Can you stop? Like I can't take this seriously whatsoever. I think too, I just wanted to say...
It's so good.
I can't wait to eat it. I'm so excited. It smells delicious.
It's so good.
Derek, have you ever had a hangover after the live streams? He has back when we were in the U.S., but less here. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Purdue. Team Means. Yeah, we love talking to you all too. Yeah, you guys are all part of the Means to Travel team, really. And it's just really fun to have this forum to talk to you week after week. We're planning to put out another video tomorrow, so hopefully you guys all watch that. If you haven't already liked this particular video, it's a good time to do so, because this live stream will kind of be available for replay, and we do have several people that watch it that way too. So press that like button if you haven't and are still watching this and definitely want to see more of our travel videos and see more of our live streams. Press that subscribe button too, so you don't miss any of those videos coming up soon. Yeah.
Thank you so much for joining us, guys. It's been a lot of fun.
Thanks for joining. We'll hopefully see you guys next week. And in the meantime, see you for 2 more videos coming up this week, too.
Cheers.
Bye. Cheers. Happy travels. See ya. Where did the thing go? Okay. See you for real.